Well, good evening, everyone. And for those of you that were running bets that said 8:45, 8:42, we did okay. We did okay. I have to the West Coast to East Coast time adjustment's fun.
3 hours.
I know. It's miserable when you come back this direction, though. Oh my gosh. Going out west is fantastic because it's like just stay up a little bit later, no problem. But then when you have to fly back east, just waking up early, that's not my cup of tea. That's really not my cup of tea. So anyways, we're here. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're back. It's been 2 weeks off, so we're playing catch up, or at least I'm playing catch up. Kurt, you have been covering all kinds of stories, correct?
A lot of Supreme Court stuff. The big stuff usually hits in the end of June, and that's certainly been true here. A lot of interesting cases and a lot of deep opinions, and yep,
a lot
of stuff, man.
A lot of media spin.
People who don't understand words. There was also the Biden case out of Louisiana dealing with Biden's access to social media.
Yep.
And their interference with social media. Great case. Well written. Really liked it.
What was it? 155 pages?
Something like that. Yeah. It was very lengthy because they wanted to set up the factual record to show why that was necessary. And they did a very good job of showing the factual record. It's like, okay, yeah that works.
So anyways,
then I read the opinion in the Court of Appeals about Crumbly, why the Crumbly parents can be charged. And I scratched my head a lot.
I have not read that yet. I want to because I am very, very curious on the legal premise to this. And I was curious about this with the Scott Peterson case because I was following that one pretty closely. Yeah. And the legal premise under which they charged him was a very
I don't think it was
slippery
viable.
Slope. It's a slippery slope.
I don't think it was viable.
I don't think it would have withstood constitutional muster if there had been a conviction. If there had been a conviction under that statute, I wonder if that wouldn't have been struck down. The whole statute.
Well, I don't know if I would have struck down the statute or not. I just would have said as
the
applied.
Application, as applied in that instance. Yeah,
he's not a parent, a adult in the household, or a similarly situated person.
It was interesting.
So he doesn't qualify as a caretaker. So that deals a blow. That was my view. What's interesting about the Crumbly case is we're doing the legal analysis on the front end because we basically moved to enjoin the trial from going forward. And the Court of Appeals said no, and they bumped it up to the Supreme Court, which told them to take another look at it. And then they said no again. So now it's before the Supreme Court again to review it before trial. So we'll see how that's going to go.
Well, and right now we're in the season of temporary, or the season of injunctive orders, where all the justices have their 9 quadrants or 9 sectors of the U.S. where they get to make independent orders to enjoin pending a full review by the court when they come back into session. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So
we get to talk about the shadow docket.
The shadow docket. God. Look, every Supreme Court.
It's so shadowy. Everything about it is in public.
Well, what's funny about this is every Supreme Court since the beginning of the Supreme Court has been strife and conflict because people don't like opinions that are made by judges and justices. Surprise. They don't. I always look at the rationale that's used,
right? How
well the rationale fits with the law, whether the legal application kind of holds weight. And honestly, I watched this. I like watching the dissent and seeing what points the dissent picks up on. So I don't know. I mean, there's been some famous dissents that have become governing law. I think about Arizona.
Was big mad in the 303 creative case in the dissent.
I heard she was.
She was big mad.
There are dissents that become binding law in the future. I think Arizona v. Gantt. That's the Scalia dissent that became law. Yeah, it is just
Morrison v. Olson, 8-1 a decision. Scalia writes the sole dissent, and it's now the law.
Yeah, it is a interesting. So court watching is something that I like doing, and I like breaking down the analysis, whether I agree with it or not. I like the analytical approach to the law. And the thing is, we got to get back to a place where we can have reasonable discussions. And the media is just going, nope, we're not going to do that. We don't want reasonable discussions.
Extra emphasis on the word reasonable, which I interpret to mean reasoned.
Like that sounds like Nazi talk.
Reason.
It's pretty wild.
Reason.
Hey, Ian,
how about we set up from some first principles and we reason it down in a deductive reasoning, and we figure out where the things should go, like, actual reasonable people.
Well, yeah, and you and I had a brain melt conversation.
Yeah.
Was it 2 weeks ago? Week ago?
Yeah.
For like an hour and a half talking about the Harvard case.
Yeah, I'm
Harvard
still
and
having brain melt
UNC.
over it. I'm still having brain melt over it.
It still doesn't make sense to me how they did it.
It doesn't. No, I don't.
I get the why. I don't get the how.
I just have to pretend the Supreme Court didn't write what it wrote and didn't mean what it actually wrote, and they meant other things.
Well, so while we're here, because we're just getting right into the swing of things,
I'm lost, but it sounds like fun.
Let me roll the intro, and I think because I've wanted to talk about this case because of how bad the media reporting has been on it. It's been awful. It's been awful.
The media get it wrong? Not my media.
Oh, Ian. This one is just so inflammatory. It's so bad. Let me roll the intro, and then on the back end of that, let's talk about the Harvard case real quick. Kurt, do you have the actually I can pull it. Never mind. Supreme Court, because I do think that bears a little bit of glancing. Because a lot of people have talked about it.
We're going to log geek out on this now. Yeah,
we are.
We're log geeking Supreme Court style.
I was going to say, don't pretend like you don't like that, Kurt, because I know you do.
I'm so happy.
Nope, that was the Groff to Joy. Yeah. No, that was the Postmaster one.
That was a good decision too. Students
for Fair Admission. There we go.
Yeah, there's the one you want.
That's the one I want. So let's roll introduction.
It's the one that you want. Do.
Oh my gosh, Ian. I've honestly missed both of you guys a lot the past 2 weeks.
Kurt didn't do it, so I had to do it.
Yeah, it's been wild. So let me do this. We'll roll the intro. We'll get into some case law because that's fun. Everyone, tell me where you're tuning in from, what you're drinking, whether you're having fun or not, whether it was a good week or not, whether it's hot AF where you are or not, because today I had court in Loudoun County. Oh, I got out of my truck and had to put that suit coat on, and it was 94 on the thermometer and 106 real feel. And the parking lot that they put for the Loudoun County Courthouse is a solid half mile away. By the time I walk into that courthouse, there is no air conditioner alive that is keeping up with the amount of sweat pouring out of my body. It was miserable. But yeah, and everywhere is warm right now. So guys, like the stream if you're here. If you like the content, please subscribe. Please subscribe to my colleagues and friends, Runkle of the Bailey Uncivil Law. They are dedicated to coming and enjoying these Friday evenings with all of us so that we get to kind of have some fun and talk some case law. And let's go ahead and run the intro, and I'll see you guys on the back end. Okay. Well, let's get into this one because this is going to be the quick one.
Yeah. Oh, you think?
I kind of do.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I do because I'm going to disagree with the majority, but not for the reasons you think.
Yeah. Because what they said doesn't make any legal sense.
Correct. But Kurt knows why I'm going to disagree with the majority, but I think the opinion I think the opinion applying Title VI is a good opinion.
If they had done that, that would have been great.
I know. So Students for Fair Admissions versus President Fellows of Harvard College. Now, what people forget right immediately, people always call this the Harvard case. Here you go. First sentence, Harvard College and the University of North Carolina are two of the oldest institutions of higher learning in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
One, Harvard College, is a private entity.
Mm-hmm.
Privately founded. Oh, come on, Rob. Privately founded, privately run, private enterprise.
The oldest college in the United States. Been private since the day it was created.
Yeah. University of North
Originally for the seminary. How far that's gone.
Not to be confused with pirate.
Yeah.
They're not at all pirates.
UNC, who started as the research university for North Carolina, but then lost their job to NC State because they wanted to talk theory rather than practical application. Just saying, NC State grad here. I might be a little biased. But UNC is a state-run university. So right from the very beginning, we're talking constitutional application and to which one of these entities the Constitution directly applies. The Constitution, not statutes, Constitution. So you can tether financing. The Congress can tether financing, the power of the purse, right? They've had that forever. And when they give financing, and they give money to universities or enterprises, they can condition the grant of that money based on certain standards. They can say, we're going to give you this money, but you have to comply with A, B, C, D, E. By accepting those funds, they bind themselves to the requirements and restrictions that exist in the statute. Okay, thus Title VI, Title VII, Title IX, that's how those apply to private universities. Constitution directly applies to state actors who are acting on behalf of the state, and that's via the Equal Protection Clause. So that's the background to this case. Old universities, they begin a selection process that involves race as a criterion to be considered in some facet in the selection process. So thus triggers our review. 70 years of affirmative action have existed prior to this case. This case, well, it still exists in different facets, but this case was brought, and here's the first part where I'm going to ask the chat. To those of you who have not seen a review of this on Kurt's channel or anyone else's channel, and I want you to be honest here, how many of you knew that or how many of you thought that the people bringing this challenge were Caucasian? Honest answers only. Because that's something that's not reported.
Crickets.
It really isn't. It's not reported. It's been wild. This was brought.
I know the answer to this one.
I know. So this conglomerate or this gathering, this body here, the Students for Fair Admissions Incorporated, they're advocating on behalf of Asian American students or potential students, prospective students who are applying to both of these universities. So there's the first thing the media is getting wrong on this. And when you read the opinions, you see they're well researched and well-written opinion. This is a well-written opinion. Anyways, Kurt, why don't you give a synopsis if you wouldn't mind? Because you're going to be able to condense this a lot better than I can.
Condense of the overall case?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. Both Harvard and UNC use race as a factor in their admission in a multi-factor analysis. They haven't been able to use quotas since Bakke, but they're able to use race, or were able to use race as a factor among many. And the Supreme Court said not so much with that, because the Constitution says equal protection under the law. And race as a category is considered strict scrutiny, which makes it basically borderline impossible for the state to discriminate on the basis of race. So, no.
Well, and the Supreme Court kind of tips the hand on my concern in the first paragraph.
Yeah.
The question presented is whether the admission system...
Yeah, whether the admission systems used by Harvard College and UNC are lawful under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Yeah, that's the wrong question. It doesn't make any sense.
It's the wrong question.
It doesn't make any sense. Harvard College is not bound by the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Nope.
Because the only provision. Monies.
Well,
nope.
More the
no,
point.
They're bound by Title VI.
Yeah, Title VI. They're bound by statute. Congress passed a statute that said you want money, you comes with these conditions by statute. So they violate Title VI. If they had said Title VI here, it would have made total sense.
Yeah.
But they said the Constitution, which makes no sense. The Constitution, with the exception of the 13th Amendment, does not apply to private actors. So it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And the thing is, this goes back to an error in procedure, at least from my perspective of the court. when the court consolidated these cases, there was a fundamental, they kind of boxed themselves into one answer, and it was Title VI. Because you just took a private enterprise and a public enterprise, and you now said, we're going to decide both of these cases in one. So I said, okay, Title VI applies to both. There you go. There you go. Title VI applies to both. Nope. They said equal protection. And now I'm confused. So anyways, they said that race was a factor. Well, all these universities that were being challenged used race as a factor that was to be analyzed in determining the admission. And none of them really had an end game in mind. They never really had, well, to what extent or how. They couldn't discern or describe how race was a factor. And so it left the district court looking at the numbers. And the numbers didn't stack up well for the admissions process. It was a really interesting. That's why I don't like some of the arguments that are coming out by the media at this point in time. And it's frustrating because they get the first premise wrong of, well, this is just a bunch of rich white folk that are trying to do away with affirmative action. False. It was actually these other underrepresented minorities that were being harmed here by a factor that I remember one of the graphs that was presented at trial, or I think it was at trial in this case. No, it was motion to dismiss. Either way, one of the graphs was presented that said that if you were looking at testing scores, if you looked at every other metric considered completely equally, and you looked at grades, that the grades of the Asian American students in order to gain admission had to be 200% higher. 200% higher.
Scores, not the grades.
Standardized test scores. Yeah, the standardized test, sorry. 200% higher.
200 points. It was like 250 points on the SAT, something like that.
That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot.
That's like that's the difference from I came in and took it to I excelled.
Yeah.
So, and people are saying, I've read the dissent. The one thing the dissent didn't say that I think they should have said is it shouldn't be equal protection.
Well, no one seems to notice that or seems to care. Because I looked for every word every time the words equal protection was mentioned, and no one seems to either notice or care. And I'm like, am I the crazy one?
Yeah.
Because they say it over and over and over again. They talk about equal protection. And I'm like, Harvard can't violate the equal protection clause. That's not a thing. Stop saying it.
Well, and some of the argument being made was that these students still get in, these achievers still get in, suggesting that it wasn't a zero-sum game. When you have admissions and the admissions are capped at, say, for example, we're going to admit hypothetically 1,000 people, right? There's only 1,000 open spots.
Right.
And they're saying that
it's a
factor. It's a factor, but it wasn't the factor that excluded the other person. Well, how do you know if you used it in any fashion and one person got in because of it and one person didn't? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, if you take it literally, if you say if they mean that literally, it is not the factor that excludes anyone. That means the factor is pointless. Why have the factor? Because if no one's being included by it and no one's being excluded by it, the factor is irrelevant. Why even bother? So their own argument defeats itself instantly.
Okay, so they did go to bench trials. So both were held to be okay. Then we granted cert. Yeah. And then we go.
They say right away in the first line, held Harvard's program violates the equal protection clause. It's right after held. Harvard and UNC's programs violate the equal protection clause. I'm like, that is not possible. And I'm just having all kinds of conniptions about it because I'm like, wait a second. What does that mean? If Harvard can violate the equal protection clause, the next logical question to my mind is, what other provisions of the Constitution can Harvard violate? Can I bring a Second Amendment challenge against Harvard? Is that a thing?
Yes. Do it. Harvard needs to give you a rifle.
Here's the problem, and I've seen the media try to put this one out there too.
Yeah.
That was not the question presented.
No, but there was a lawsuit filed that I covered today on my morning special, Legal News Roundup, which is on every weekday. You can find on Uncivil Law. We covered a lawsuit that was filed on exactly this basis, because it turned out that 43% of white students were there because they were in legacy admissions, which is a category that also, by Harvard's definition, includes athletes, children of professors, and other people deemed of special import by the administration, which means daddy gave us money. So 43% of them, the admission rate for the admission rate
for the American dream is kind of
the admission rate for the legacies, athletes, children of faculty, and people of special interest to the administration. Do you want to take a guess what the admission rate is at Harvard for those people?
Oh, I don't even want it. What is it, like 70%?
90%.
Are you kidding me?
Whoa. So you basically need to be conscious and have a pulse in order to...
Yeah, it's terrible. And you know what's funny? If that was the question presented, and if Harvard was somehow bound by constitutional standards and application of all fair standards to the admission into their program, then the legacies are a different question. You want to review legacies, review legacies.
So for everyone else, it's like 13%. For these people, 90%. It's good. It's good to be a legacy.
90%. Wow.
So the easiest way to get into Harvard is to get somebody else, like get your parents to be,
or be adopted. If your parents didn't go there, just be adopted. Apparently.
Huh. Any Harvard profs looking for a kid?
A child.
Age 40.
Asking for a friend. Friend.
Age 43. Just saying.
And people that are saying take the legacy challenge on first, the problem is the Constitution doesn't apply.
But now they're trying to bring a disparate impact challenge.
Which is
racially neutral.
Separate, and that's a separate challenge. That's a separate challenge, and that might result in
your odds of winning are not too bad. And and Colorado apparently did away with it statewide by law, so no more legacies in Colorado. Period. At least at public schools, of course. And
here's the problem with a lot of this is people are misunderstanding what the court does. The court is posed with a very specific and discernible question: whether one thing is right or wrong. And by answering that one thing, they don't get to do a corrective action and correct all the things, because those weren't briefed, they weren't argued, the facts aren't in front of the court, the stats aren't in front of the court. They don't have any of that information because it's a separate thing. So the legacy argument is that's from what Kurt said, that's a good case.
Looks that way. And they started immediately with asking the Biden administration to take a look at it through Department of Education. I'm like, there is no way. There is a 0% chance the Biden administration is going to take action through the Department of Education for legacy admissions. There's just way too much money in it.
Kurt, I'm cynical. I'm cynical, but please explain why a certain administration or certain politicians wouldn't put a thumb on the scale when it came to legacy money.
Well, those legacy monies are going to the most elite universities, which tend to lean Democratic. And the people who are paying for those schools tend to be Democratic. And so they're like, if you cut off that money supply, there'll be a lot of very angry Democrats because we want our baby. This is basically just the legal version of the college admissions bribery scandal from a few years back, where people were trying to bribe it illegally.
The pay to play, basically.
Yeah, pay to play. It's pay to play, but it's legal. And so it's like, they won't invest. They won't do anything about it, because if they did anything about it, it would mean shutting it down at all these elite schools, which are funded by Democratic donors and also churn out a lot of Democratic people because they lean very blue and lean very Democratic in their ideologies and teachings, and they're very good for the party. So I would be Very shocked if the Democratic administration did anything about this on legacies. Too much money. They may not believe in racism, but they believe in money more. I know it's a shocker. Money talks, baby.
And well, how many of them went to Harvard themselves?
A lot.
Quite a few of them.
And I don't. Here's the thing. I don't.
How many of them
For
got
me-
in on these kinds of admissions?
Well, for me, it's not red versus blue. For me, it's not liberal versus Democrat. For me, it basically is politicians. It's politicians and people in power.
This is
you
stuff
had
that benefits people with power.
correct. If you
and
had
if
a
they-
Republican administration, they wouldn't take it on either.
If they strike it down for Harvard, it's struck down for everybody, which
Yeah.
means all the politicians' kids.
Yep,
don't
every
get to
single
make
one
it
of them.
in.
And the chat is kind of correct because you're right. If they don't go to Harvard, they go to Yale, they go to Brown, they go to Penn, they go to one of these universities. And I don't care which side of the aisle they're on. The politicians that have all that money that donate to all these universities, they donate to get their kids in. It's the pay to play. It's a pretty corrupt system. It's a pretty nasty system.
I mean, the game's always been rigged, and if you measure your money in thousands or even like low millions, it's not rigged for you. That's the long and short of it.
I don't think it should be this way. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what does fix it. You know, these state-run universities, the state universities, those are state actors. They are subject to the Constitution and the protections that are afforded by the Constitution to all citizens. Private enterprises largely get to do private things within certain bounds. When they're accepting state money, when they're accepting government money, Title VI, for example, which is why that's where this opinion should have been. Title VI.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, there's another technical reason it should have been rooted in Title VI. There's this idea that's well entrenched in law of just basically called constitutional avoidance, where if a court can decide something on a ground other than the Constitution, they will.
They do that
Because they don't want to answer constitutional questions if they can avoid it, right? Why decide a constitutional question if you can decide on statute? So this is easily decidable under Title VI. So why not decide it under that reason? You preserve the doctrine of constitutional avoidance. It's easier.
And my opinion on all of these cases is, you know, I've been pretty clear about this. I think politicians are, look, I live around DC. Politicians are politicians. They, yeah, the motivations are, if they are not now, they will be at some point. They do.
That doesn't sound like politicians.
They get money to do the thing. But either way,
I'm not super optimistic that a Republican administration will necessarily do anything about it either. But between the two, I have slightly more hope, but not by much between the Republicans.
I don't really,
because the Republican administration would get to burn all the elitist schools, and that would be fun.
Well, like I get
the thing is that they are elitists themselves.
That's true. That is a fair point.
A
lot of them went to Harvard and Yale too. That's fair. Runkle. You're not wrong.
Well, and a lot of them also have kids who haven't yet gone to Harvard or Yale, but who they want to go to Harvard or Yale.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
Politics is a nasty. Ugh. It's just it feels disgusting in every facet, and I hate when. Look, there was a legal decision. There was a legal thing to decide here, and there was a way of getting there that was completely clean, that would have made sense for decades, that would have been appropriate remedy. I don't like when the court springboards to something that I can't draw the connection to. This opinion frustrated me for that reason. Not particularly because of the outcome, but it frustrated me because of how they got there. And that I can say that about, I don't care what court it is. I don't care if it's a court that strikes down the Affordable Care Act. When the Affordable Care Act was upheld, get there with the right reasons, guys. Like just please. That's why you're there. So the money thing is the money thing, man. But that was my gripe about a lot of the reporting on this decision, because it just came from a very academically disingenuous position. It just didn't say the facts. Like that's your job, journalists. Anyways, let's go on to Threads. What is Threads? Wait, hang on.
It's a really dark movie about a nuclear attack based in the UK, where it's a survival horror movie, and people have to survive the nuclear apocalypse. I wouldn't particularly recommend watching it. It's really dark.
Threads. Right here.
Oh God! All right, I'm gonna swoop. Double swoop. All right.
Did
Now-
you see the Kurt swoop?
No, do you have that? Can you upload that and share that?
I can't upload it, but I can run it as a video file. Give me a second.
We need a Kurt. I need a Kurt.
I made a Kurt swoop.
Has Kurt seen a Kurt swoop?
Oh yeah, I've
Kurt
been using
has
it.
the Kurt swoop.
Let
Let me see if I can find the Kurt swoop.
Someone designed a swoop for me.
Oh my gosh!
Where did I put the Kurt swoop?
It's been a week, man.
Oh yeah, you've had a week. Give me a second. Where is Kurt swoop?
Well,
gotta
while
find
you're
the
doing
right
that,
version.
I can do a pleasant rundown of my past week.
Yes, do
We'll
the
do that. We'll do the pleasant thing. So this past week, for those of you guys who might or might not follow the channel, Mama Morton is on a little island called Blakely Island. And this is what Blakely Island looks like when you're flying in. Mama Morton 2 weeks ago decided that she was going to try and put some stuff in a boat. Heavy stuff into a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, as they get older, I have noticed that I already start losing some of the things that I thought I had. All right. That's the B-fish.
yeah. It plays as soon as I say.
Play it again.
Run it.
Play it again.
And it's got a cowboy hat.
So cool. That is so cool.
Have you seen the? Did you see the new swoop I made for me?
No.
I've
Can
got
you
a
show
new
that
swoop.
to me now? Do that one now.
Okay, give me a second. I will pull up new swoop. Some people didn't like my swoop, so I picked a swoop that I think everyone will like. Swoop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna get you some. I like that one a lot. That's a good one.
That's a good one. It's the doggo swoop.
It is. All right, so we're gonna do this. Mama Morton was on island. This is where she goes during the summers. And for those of you guys who have wanted, here we go. I'm gonna do this now. Be kind, folks. That's Mama Morton there with the American flag, and that's Yadida. That's the woman that raised me from basically me being a kid. So she spends her summers on Blakely Island.
Nice looking background. I'm not gonna lie, that's really pretty.
It does not. It does not suck. This place has been there for my grandfather bought on that island in 1956. One of the first people on the island. So it's a really small place. Very small place. Several houses. I think there's like 100 total houses on the island. And the island is privately owned. Everyone's saying blur your feet, Rob. Oh God. The island's private. The island's privately owned. It's owned by Seattle Pacific University, a logging company, and then a bunch of individuals. And by a bunch, I mean like an actual lot of individuals. So with private ownership comes stuff like HOAs. This HOA is so convoluted over the course of several generations, like families that inherit from families. Families all buy property on the island. It's gorgeous. It's fantastic. It's really secluded, so you can get away in the Pacific Northwest. But families have family drama and intergenerational family drama. And everyone that owns a lot gets a vote at an annual meeting.
Oh, I know exactly how this goes.
Does it turn into the purge?
Close.
They had to hire a parliamentarian
Oh, nice.
who was strictly enforcing Robert's rules throughout the entire course of the meeting, because that's how heated these meetings get.
I used
So
to
they
be
had
a
to
certified
hire-
parliamentarian long ago.
By the way,
Nice.
folks,
Wild.
Robert's rules does not apply to this guy or this guy. It's a different Rob.
Yeah, different Rob.
Yes.
Different Rob. Not my rules.
General
Different
Robert,
rules
I
that-
believe. if
General,
memory serves
yeah,
correctly.
who it basically governs entities and parliamentarian discourse. Basically, I make a motion, I second the motion. Can we put it to a floor vote? That type of stuff. So we have a parliamentarian on the island for this.
The chair recognizes Mr. Rob Morton for first
Yeah.
remarks.
Yes, that is exactly how it works. That is how contentious this HOA has gotten, and the fights that happen. They argue over chickens. They argue over property. They argue over the wells and water rights. They argue over everything. It is wild. But so mom lives up here during the summers after my dad passed. This is kind of one of her happy places. And going back to what I was showing before, this is the view when you land on a little island. This is flying over Whidbey Island. If any other military wanted a reason not to F around and find out, it's kind of all of these F-18s. They're just sitting there.
But they could not sit there if they needed to. If needed, they could, not just sit there.
Well, what's cool is
I'm
these
guessing
are owned by
about
the
2 minutes.
Well, these are owned by the Navy. So what's cool is on the runway, they will actually delineate in massive paint strips, like marks, the length of the ships they need to land on. So the pilots come and they train. I think you can see one there where the mouse is. They will train in landing with like a catch rope within a certain distance. So these F-18s are all for training purposes. It's really neat. And then that was sunset. It was really pretty. And 4th of July, all the kids on the island go and decorate all the old cars on the island. How do I mute this? I might have to do this way. Let me pull this down and do it another way. All the kids on the island decorate all of the old cars in red, white, and blue, and they do a little parade around the runway.
Nice.
And it's literally
cool.
the cutest thing in the world. And I'm not going to show trying to be respectful of the fact that there are like kids in these images and not show any of the kiddos, and mute because there's a freaking fire horn going on in the background.
Sorry, that was me.
No, it was me. So they decorate all these old cars and they all go around the runway in little motorcycles. ATVs are all decked
I like
out.
ATVs. That's nice. Oh, that's a nice car. Oh, yeah.
So tons of old cars in the island. It's a lot of fun. So that's where it happens. But Mama Morton fell into a boat. She broke 3 ribs. One of those ribs jumped up and popped a tiny little hole in her lung. She's fine. She's fine. But she should not be doing anything else. She should not be doing anything. Nothing. Mom, if you're watching, if you're taking out the trash, no. I don't care. Don't do that. You're supposed to rest. But she's independent. She likes to do the things.
But you can't do the things when you're injured.
You can't do the things when you're injured. Just don't do the things when you're injured. You're fine. So that's why I was out there. taking care and making sure that we were getting some walks in, that we were healing appropriately, and that we were going to our doctor's appointments and doing all the stuff, and that I was there to take out the trash and the recycling and to do the things as simple as spilling coffee and cleaning that up, because it's like in an awkward position you have to get in to clean the coffee. So yeah, that's what we were doing. Yeah, and ribs, I know the chat, ribs hurt. They hurt. So she's resting. But that was this past week. And then, of course, I came back because I had a hearing today. It was hot, and it's been chaotic, to say the least. So, yeah. Oh, Kathy at Oz. She is independent. I got all of my stubbornness from her. 100%. Just all of it. Yeah. So positive vibes are well appreciated, and thank you for the chat for highlighting all that stuff. It's really very, very, very much appreciated, because that stuff's tough. Teresa, this Alabama gal, just got engaged to her boyfriend of over 14 years in Lake Placid, New York. Gorgeous, by the way. Last week while on vacay, it was a total surprise. Teresa, congratulations on the engagement. That is amazing. I bet those photos are awesome because Lake Placid is also gorgeous. Congratulations. Happy nuptials. And I hope you have a wonderful. Enjoy the experience of just being engaged. It's fun. Susan, thank you very much.
Just run off to the courthouse. Get it done tomorrow, baby.
Don't listen to Kurt when he's in.
Do whatever you want to do. Whatever makes you happy. Do what you want to do.
Courthouse opens at 9. Let's go.
that you're enjoying that experiance. Susan, happy you're back, still debating if I should open that bottle of wine that keeps screaming my name. Yes. Check the DMs, please. Trying to get you a cachata. No, ka. To you, hi Ian. Mom was awesome. Monday was awesome. Love the streams, Kurt. Thank you, Susan. You are so very kind. Always. Thank you very much for that.
I'm a minister in the Universal Life Church. If your state recognizes that as a valid minister's license, I will come and marry you personally.
Really?
If you get married in Alberta, I can get a temporary marriage commissioner cert.
There you go.
Oh my. Well, those are options, guys. You guys know they're there. K80 did. Oh, Katie did. I like that. Katie did too. Did affirmative action ever legally address implicit bias? I don't know. And I don't know the court ever reached that question. It was there. It served a purpose. The court acknowledged it served a purpose. The question that hung the court up the most, and it was during oral arguments that fascinated me. There was no end. Yeah, Kurt, you hearkened on this one too.
Yeah, I think the biggest single problem I think for Harvard and UNC is they couldn't find an endpoint. In the prior case that O'Connor had written about 22 years ago or so, they said, well, this should end in about 25 years.
Yep.
And what she meant by that, when you read it, is she thought that it would, by its own nature, become moot. There wouldn't be any desire to do it because the goal would have been achieved in that time frame. And here we are 22 years later, and there's no end in sight. And so they ask Harvard and UNC various versions of the question during oral arguments, like, when does this end? And they couldn't answer it. And my personal favorite version of that question that I thought was the most revealing is like, let's assume that you achieve perfect parity with the population at large.
Yeah.
You know, so the black population is 13%, the population of the school is 13%, and so forth and so on through every demographic, right? So the population in terms of race and color, creed, national origin, whatever, all those things is perfectly mirrored at the school, one for one. Are you done? And they wouldn't say yes. They wouldn't say, yes, we're done. It's like, even if you achieve perfect parity, so how do you know when you stop? We don't know. And that's the problem. It's like, you have no goal. You have no metric for success. And so there's no end. And so we'll end it.
And when Kurt says the question was asked, it was Kavanaugh who was asking the question. He kept asking it in multiple ways, and he kept on pushing it out and changing the question. It was a good example of a back and forth between a Supreme Court justice and a lawyer when both recognized that neither one can give up the point. And Kavanaugh kept asking and said, so let's say you achieve it for 5 years in a row, 10 years in a row. Let's say that you achieve it and you don't use the metrics. Let's say you achieve it and you do. They kept changing the question and it would never be answered. And that was, I think, if there was a question on the court, I think that's where the court kind of hung their hat. They said there's no discernible end.
Right.
It was pretty wild. But
sometimes you got to answer those questions.
You have to.
How do we know when racism is over?
You have to, like, you have to be able to, you have to answer it. You have to have a way to answer it, because when you don't, and you pretend like the justices don't see through the non-answer, it's a problem.
You've got to either have an answer or a believable dodge.
Yeah.
I did some appellate court looking at, and I noted that a lot of cases are not won based on your oral advocacy, but they can be lost.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
And,
I think that's for damn true at the Supreme Court. I've said before, you can't win, but you can lose.
You can. Yeah.
I mean, there are rare circumstances where I've watched appellate advocacy and thought somebody's won something by making an argument. But my Supreme Court trip, I don't think I won through my argument, except to basically ask. The thing I did best in that was basically to say, here is the question I want you to ask the other guy. Ask this question. And they did. And when they went and asked the other guy that question, he ended up giving up what I think is the whole show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and Ali B, and I thank you for the super chat and ADHD alert. Yeah, we're going to go back to this because ADHD kind of just jumped on one point. And I do watch the chat, guys. Racism, bigotry, and sexism will never be over. It won't. It quite honestly, and this might sound like a black pill, like it won't. People are going to have opinions that are either racist, bigoted, or sexist. They will. People are going to have opinions about each other. They're going to be bad, terrible, not well-founded, awful, awful things that they're going to think in their mind. And then the question, when people quit being racist, and then how do you measure racism? It's how do you measure it? Who's the appropriate person to identify it? Who's the appropriate person to fix it? And at what level? And I'm like, Congress has never, tell me one law that Congress has written that's actually fixed the problem rather than make new ones.
Probably aren't very many of them.
I'm just trying to think. It's a tough question.
Sure, there's ones in there somewhere.
Yeah, ageism, tribalism, all of it, guys. The chat's right. Yes, you guys are right. These are problems that exist. They are. They're there.
There's a lot of laws that do help things, but they tend to be like organization laws or standardization laws. Things like, hey, food should not be poisonous. Food should not be brick. And also things like, hey, both sides of the road are perfectly okay to drive on, but we really need to pick one because otherwise it's going to be a cluster beep. That kind of thing. Like
it really can be. Professor of Logic, each membership purchase is a perm for one strand of Rob's hair. My God, that is interesting. Canonical Heat, so nice to have you back. Hope any/all chaos is abated. It's slowed, Canonical Heat, and I thank you very much. And thank all of you for the messages. I haven't been good at getting back to them. I will try to do that. This week has calmed down a bit. Lady Drake, thank you. Everyone's echoing everyone's messages of welcome back, and we missed you. It's been rough, but having you back on FNF makes it better. Lady Drake, I know that you had a medical procedure, and I know that it was tough going. I hope that you're rapid in recovery, and I know there were hiccups in that recovery, but all of my best wishes are to you and your family. The neurodivergent counselor, ready for some FNF. Thank you very much. Torin, I've started working on winding silk for your braid. That's really exciting. Thank you, Torin. Check out his YouTube channel. It's fantastic. Torin3 at YouTube. Rosalind Duke, I designed some stuff for some people. No response. Rosalind, if one of those people was me, I 100% take that. And that was 100% on me because I have not been looking.
Rob doesn't believe in responding to messages.
I have tried. I got back East Coast and the number of messages that went unresponded for
I am buried in messages as well. So if I'm on that list, I apologize. Send a message again. Keep trying. Like Apple Silver just asked a question in chat some time ago, and I tried to follow up on it, and then I lost the response. I don't know what's going on necessarily at any given time. So
it's pretty tough. Like my methodology, and it might sound crazy, but when that little bubble starts tacking up in numbers, like when it starts to get like above 10, I recognize that I need, if I go and I read them all, that's a problem. I'm going to forget which ones I read and which ones I didn't. So I will leave the bubble at like 10, 12, 15 until I have time to actually go in and answer. So I have a lot that need to be answered, and I just need a dedicated piece of time to do that. But thank you. Cat in Virginia, please mention Kouri's wish in his video last week. I believe that was to get Pixie to 100,000. Please go check out his channel. Please check out Pixie's channel. They really are wonderful people. So if you can, please go subscribe. It's a wonderful thing to do. Katrina Turner, I get collapsed lungs frequently due to microplastic trapped in my lungs. Tell Mama Morton to park it. This isn't the time to be stubborn. Oh, Katrina, from your lips to God's ears, I have tried, my dear, and I continue to try all the time. XEDA, thank you very much. Prayers for healing for your mom and for your ability of caregiving. Parents are really important, folks. Kristen, thank you much. Love you. Got to spend time with Mama 1 and Mama A. That's their names, right? Yep. Mama 1, Mama A. I don't view one as different as the other. They both raised me. They are both my moms. And my dad was there too. I had a very, very fortunate upbringing. Kristen, forgot tomorrow. I'm 98% sure is the anniversary of Wood Daddy Stack Stream. I was working birthday party gift for a friend's little girl. Well, okay. I don't know how Wood Daddy Stack Stream works into the working on a birthday party gift, but I guess it does.
It's a bad birthday gift.
I guess. So
do not get them stacks of anything.
Moms are the worst teenagers. That is so accurate. It is so accurate. Yeah. We love them. We just wish they would not do some of the things. So anyways, Meta, which apparently is now the new Facebook.
Yes, they want to be Meta. They had the whole metaverse. That went super well for them. And now they want to have Threads.
So what is Threads? Can someone fill us in on what Threads is? Because I don't care. I do.
It's basically they're trying to make a Twitter copy that ties into Instagram, so that they can have all of your data and all of your conversations, because that's how Zuck works. But I mean, I signed up for it anyway. But the fun thing is, Elon Musk has been firing a ton of people. Like, he basically is just walking around the Twitter office going, what are you working on? Too slow, fired. So as a result of that, a whole bunch of people were like, hey, we could hire some folks. Specifically, Zuckerberg has been hiring a ton of them. And now Elon Musk is super pissed because, he's like, hey, you used all of this knowledge that was proprietary to Twitter to make Threads. And it's like, did you think about whether or not it was a great idea to fire a whole heap of people just as your competitors firing up? Like,
however, like, to your point, I see your point, and that's why I've been watching this back and forth go forward, and I'm actually very, very, very curious about this, because the legal merits are really interesting. Because yes, Musk fired a bunch of people, but they're still subject to their non-disclosure agreements. They're subject to their non-compete agreements. They are subject to their agreements.
The question is, how many of them have them? Because
but they are talking about non-compete agreements here. That's what's interesting, right? They talk about intellectual property rights.
Yeah,
they're talking about trade secrets.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that none of these people are bound by a non-compete because they don't mention it.
But they would be if there was a term in their contract that said that anything that you create while so for example, when
Well, that's a give me. I mean, as to that
yes,
much, because anything you create for the company is the company's. That's the deal, right?
it's the company's
I give
property.
you
Yeah.
money, you give me work. The product
Yes,
of your work is mine. That's what I
correct.
paid for. So, like, yeah, that much is true. So everything that they generated while they worked at Twitter, I mean, regardless of what the contract says, I mean, unless it says the exact opposite, you know, we would assume that everything they created is for the company. So if they took any of that code or assets or
By the way,
tangible things
this is
to the if you get fired for no reason, your non-compete gets voided. I don't know California
no.
law that well,
This,
so
Isn't it the
I don't know that to be
California?
true.
Isn't it
I
that
don't know.
California really restricts non-competes?
they do.
I
They
don't
really
know. I'm
restrict
outside of my
non-competes,
depth.
but it's going to be state specific. But I will tell you that before you act on anything this like this, talk to a lawyer, because generally speaking, I will tell you in Virginia, that ain't true. Non-compete, and that still exists. Not to mention the property that you create while you're employed is still a property of the company.
Yeah, one would imagine
Yeah.
that's true. So if they took any sort of tangible thing like code, assets, something that could be reduced to some sort of form, and they use that, then that would be a problem. Facebook, for its part, says none of these people were hired for the Threads team, and none of them were particularly senior anyway, and we don't know what you're talking about. So, yeah.
It's going to be a fun little fight. And by fun little fight, I mean, someone made the comment like rich people problems. Kinda. They just,
I think the way to settle this is that they've already been talking, like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, about having a cage match.
Yeah,
They need it.
possibly at the Coliseum, which is just the greatest thing ever.
Oh my God.
Runkle of the Bailey will sponsor.
Apparently they got permission.
Runkle of the Bailey will sponsor them each to have a chainsaw during that cage match.
Oh God. Make sure it's one of the miniature battery operated ones that are like really crappy.
Now, like the ones that Ricada sells.
Yeah. He acknowledges they're really crappy. I'm not dissing him for that. He acknowledges
he acknowledges that they're just funny. And he's got a promo code, so we can order them through Ricada's promo code, which I think is nose.
Sure it
every
is.
one of
Of course
it
it is.
knows.
But we can move it to a much more epic setting than the Coliseum. I mean, the Coliseum is a good idea, but we can go even more epic. What I'm thinking is that we need to take this to the Titanic, courtesy of Ocean Gate.
Oh no.
And that'll be an epic setting for a battle, for a cage match.
Oh God. This is a bunch of pissing matches, but it's a really interesting question, because the other thing, let's say hypothetically that Meta did hire, let's say 100, 200 software engineers. How do you prove that one of them brought the proprietary information versus all of them collaboratively who worked at Twitter and just have that collective knowledge and recreated it?
Well, what you do is you bring a lawsuit, and then you overcome the motion to dismiss, and then you get into discovery of all of the code of both projects,
and
so
see
that
what's copied.
You don't have to have more than that to get to pass the motion to dismiss. You have to have good faith basis to say what the stuff is that they took.
Oh, I mean,
go fishing.
I don't see them getting over that hill, but if they do, then that would be the most epic discovery, is they have to dig through each other's code looking for copies. Like,
the cost of this litigation, to the extent that we're going into like code review, holy crap. I don't even.
Let me just say that they would be an excellent time to be Blue Sky at that point.
So, anyways, Elon's attorney sent this letter to Mark Zuckerberg this week. Dear Mr. Zuckerberg, I write on behalf of X Corp. He really named his company X Corp that bought Twitter. Based on recent reports regarding your recently launched Threads app, Twitter has serious concerns that the Meta platforms is engaged in systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property. Over the past year, Meta has hired dozens of former Twitter employees. Twitter knows that these employees previously worked at Twitter, that these employees had and continue to have access to Twitter's trade secrets and other highly confidential information, yada, yada. What we were just kind of saying. Meta, with that knowledge, Meta deliberately assigned these employees to develop, in a matter of months, Meta's copycat Threads app with the specific intent that they use Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property in order to accelerate the development of Meta's competing app. Interesting. Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights and demands that Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. Twitter reserves all rights, including but not limited to the right to seek both civil remedies and zoom in.
The right to whine.
Injunctive relief without further notice to prevent any further retention, disclosure, or use of intellectual property. I mean, Zuckerberg, you have to be honest. Like, Zuckerberg probably saw this and got a chuckle out of the letter.
Yeah.
Like, he probably looked at Elon and was like, "You're big mad right now. Like, you're really upset."
He's like, "Just file this in the usual place." They're like, "You mean the incinerator?" He's like, "The
Yeah,
fancy
kinda.
incinerator, though, because it's Elon Musk."
Yeah. So, yeah, and this is a good point. I didn't think about this
with
one.
no.
Coders use very strong tools to document who wrote what and when. Copy paste Twitter's code. It's easy to find out. Hypothetically
one would
speaking,
imagine.
I can't imagine what
they
the
have pretty
code
strong
looks
code
like.
management tools.
I don't know this. I don't know all. Is this also Maggie May? Is this true? You can't delete a Threads account without also deleting your IG account.
Yeah, that is apparently true.
Wow.
Well, increased reason not to create a Threads account, I guess.
Well,
I already created one, but I mean, my Instagram presence is awful. So
You can subscribe to my Instagram where I publish shorts about my videos.
I just can't get beyond when Zuckerberg appeared on Capitol Hill and was being grilled about the information he was scraping and selling. The volume of information that Meta and Facebook, look, all the apps are bad. Google's probably the worst out there, period. They might be tied with Facebook, and what Meta does. The data is just astounding. And apparently the disclosures on Threads was like, you give us everything.
I bet.
yeah.
So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. It's going to be entertainment because Zuckerberg, there's nothing better than some of the memes. Where were some of them? Didn't Zuckerberg re-enter Twitter for like one purpose? Start trolling Elon?
I bet it could be fun.
Hang on.
Has he tried Truth Social yet? That's where all the real good stuff is happening.
Wait, what's his Twitter handle? It was. No, it's not that one. What's Zuckerberg's Twitter handle? Someone's got to have it.
I think it's what the Zuck 69.
Ian, I almost typed that in, son of a bitch. Because I trust you too much sometimes.
The chat is just saying that it's Zuck.
Sounds about right.
Oh. And then there's so many parody accounts. This is just becoming entertaining. This is just entertainment now. I'll take this all day.
Twitter can be an entertaining place.
It really can be. What is Mark?
I've been enjoying helping the ratio on all Bud Light tweets. I've been enjoying posting to excoriate them. That's been a lot of fun.
I just remember when you could just dislike a beer for being a bad beer and it wasn't political.
I wasn't already drinking it anyway. But I can make fun of them for being woke idiots.
It is his.
I just don't care. They're marketing to an audience. brands have tried to market to a variety of audiences for a long time. It's just getting harder now because the internet means that you can easily like cross-check. But it used to be that you'd have brands that, you know, when magazines were a thing, they'd advertise about, you know, in like both a pro-gun magazine and in an anti-gun, you know, production. So I care 0% about that issue.
Well, I'm just watching the back and forth between these two because what was it? Musk tweeted the other day, basically said, "See you in the cage," or "See you in like a cage match." Yeah. So they're both going back and forth at each other. It's just funny to watch at this point. So, anyways, that's what I've got on the Zuckerberg stuff and that thread. So, why don't we talk about Kevin Costner?
He's still alive?
He is.
He's doing Yellowstone. I've been enjoying that.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. I haven't been watching that. I should.
All right. Let's
Very good.
All right. So Kevin Costner filed, or rather, he did not file for divorce. The individual who filed for divorce was his spouse, second wife, and we will go ahead and remember how to share the screen. Timeline. So a lot of this reporting is coming via either People, LA Times, etc., because they have runners that go to court to pick stuff up, and because, well, the attorney that represents Kevin Costner is Laura Wasser, who represented Johnny Depp, who's like the number one like divorce attorney, and has filed to basically seal damn near everything in this case. So it's not the easiest thing to figure out information on this, other than secondary reporting, which is intentional leaks from either camp. So Kevin Costner and Christine Baumgartner's divorce proceedings. So they were married in 2004, and Christine Baumgartner filed for divorce in May of this year after 18 years of their marriage. Going to the timeline, where was it? They have 3 kids, Caden, White, and Hayes, and a daughter, Grace Avery. Kevin has 4 kids from a previous relationship. And then you've got in May, all of a sudden, people are confirming that Costner and his wife are breaking up. And then Baumgartner lists a date of separation of April 11th and files for divorce. So Baumgartner files for the divorce. Okay. There's a picture of the lovely couple. This is a misstatement by People magazine. They did not file for divorce. Christine Baumgartner filed for divorce. So that's not really accurate. And Kevin Costner's representative says he doesn't really want to be here. It's with great sadness and circumstances beyond his control have transpired, which resulted in Mr. Costner having to participate in a dissolution of marriage action. But he had been through a previous marriage before, and prior to entering this marriage, he has a prenup. Files saying there's a prenup, and the prenup lists separate property, jewelry, personal effects, all this other kind of stuff, separation, everything that I owned prior to that. And then there was a specific provision that said, pursuant to the terms in paragraph 9 of the parties' agreement, petitioner is to vacate the respondent's separate property residences, right? So you have all of this being reported. And then they get into a back and forth over whether or not she should leave the home. They start arguing. Then we start to get to the news this week. June 14th, Kevin Costner claims that Christine will not move out of the home after she filed for divorce. So Costner said that per his prenup, Baumgartner had 30 days to leave the house. Documents allege that Baumgartner has not budged in an effort to force Costner to agree to various financial demands. Among those demands was a demand for $248,000 a month in child support for the three kids.
That is a lot of child support. That is
That's
a
more
lot
than
of
my
child
income.
support. Yeah. Per month. You don't make $240,000 a month?
I don't make that in a year.
Oh, neither do I.
So
Per
Rob?
month. I saw this, and I am not usually kind of taken aback by these celebrities that sue each other for money and for child support, etc. $248K per month is a lot. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But it's not just the 248,000. That's where the reporting kind of goes sideways. They say 248,000, but then they also request that he pay 100% of their private school tuition, extracurricular
on top of that,
activities and sports, healthcare expenses, etc.
that's on top of that.
Yes.
What private school are they going to that it's not just a rounding error on that? Like
I had to confirm this. Like I had to look at this and I said, this has to be a misstatement. That'd be $24K a month.
no, it's not a rounding error. It's just this is what celebrities are all about.
But again, Costner says that his income was listed at 19 million in 2022. Tough life. Yellowstone did him very well. And they listed expenses of 6.645 million. So 248,000 is how much per year? About 4 million.
Yes, 3 million.
3 million.
Or,
so half of the total expenses for both of them. I mean, that's what they're saying after all of that. So Costner agreed to pay $38,000 a month in child support. Plus, we're going to go ahead and pay all the costs directly. So he's like, I'll give you $38,000 a month in child support, and I'll pay all these different costs directly: private school tuition, books, fees, uniforms, trips, sports, camps, other stuff like that. And he's already paid 1.4 million over as a result of the prenup that they had between the two of them.
You know, I made the wrong choice going into the law. I should have just married Kevin Costner.
It's not a bad choice.
I feel like that was the smarter call.
I mean, guideline child support based on his gross cash flows is 146 or 123. That's cash flow. It's not just gross income. That's just cash flow. That's not taking the fact that he has other expenses probably to generating that money. And he's also got other kids that he's paying support for. Well, they show up in court this week, and Baumgartner is ordered to move out of the home. Now, I want to make a caveat before the entire chat goes wild on this particular point. This was a home he purchased prior to their marriage. Like, he owned this going into the marriage. The whole house.
That makes a big difference.
Makes a really big difference. And that's something that's not really being reported a lot, is that this particular home, he owned it. Let me see. Trade jabs in court. Where was it here? Finding the other news reporting.
She can get a nice apartment somewhere for, $1,000 a month. She'll be fine.
I was going to say some smaller portion of $248,000 a month. She could get a nice place to live.
And this was the press release. So this is from today, an article that's following up on essentially where this stands from late June. Where did my mouse go? There it is.
Hell, I will rent her the house I am currently living in for, I think they say that you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. So I'll rent her this entire house for that, 30% of that income.
So that would be $75,000 a month.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a hell of a deal.
So she acknowledges the marital lifestyle, including that of the children, was consistent with the long-term exceedingly high income. I realize our lifestyle is extraordinary. I appreciate how very blessed we are to live this way. It's important to not only to provide a warm and comfortable home for our children, but to also teach them family values and gratitude. $248,000 a month is a lot of money. That's a
That-
lot.
That's
I'd have a lot of
gratitude.
gratitude for $248,000 a month. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for the
Well,
248,000.
Chat, if you'd like to super chat me $248,000 a month, I promise to show you my gratitude each and every day. I'll make videos as
and
I
he means
travel
that
the
however you
world.
want.
As I travel the world, I'll make videos all over the world showing my gratitude.
well, and this is the point. This is in the prenup. The prenup is explicit on this. That in the event of a divorce filing, she moves out in 30 days of the divorce filing. That was pre-agreed to. That's a prenup. That's why these prenups exist. That's why they are prepared. That's why they're signed. That's why they're negotiated by both parties entering into a marriage like this. This is his second marriage. He's been through this. The last marriage, I think his last marriage cost him, $80 million total. So he's not entering into this marriage without a prenup in place. So he has
Doesn't
the
pay to get
prenup.
married, does it? Damn.
He has a prenup. And the judge basically said, no, you're held by the prenup. Forensic accountant, these guys are this is gonna be a not pleasant divorce proceeding. And this is a correct
The
legal.
child support may seem large. Yeah, it does seem large.
Yeah, no, this
And in
this is
charge.
interesting because the children should share in the standard of living of both parents. That's correct.
He paid her. The prenups required $1 million after she filed for
Far.
divorce. So just for filing, she gets
1.4.
$1 million. I think she can afford to rent somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, she has 1.4 upon filing. Plus, she also has a handbag company that earns money. But she said she doesn't have income. This is a back and forth that is really kind of nasty. And the thing is, her legal team is acknowledging. They are acknowledging not that this is within guidelines. You see this reference here to California statutory and case law. It's in accord with. That means it's not guideline support. That means that this is requesting an upward deviation from what guidelines would otherwise say.
I ain't saying that she's a gold digger.
I have no information about
We're
the
not
dissolution of
finishing
this
that
marriage.
sentence.
Yeah. I have no understanding about what is the cause of dissolution. I'm not commenting on that. I have no idea what the relationship was like. What I am saying is that this thing went back and forth, and this is even after a prenup existed. So it's pretty wild. She's also requesting an advance of $350,000 in attorney's fees and $150,000 in forensic accounting costs.
She wants him to pay for her attorneys?
He will.
That's some
He will.
bullshit.
He will.
You pay for your own attorneys, woman.
No, he'll pay for it because he has the resource to pay for his own at a certain rate. And the funny thing is I can see that argument, the 350, but the 350 for the attorneys plus 248 per month in child support. Look, I try child support cases all the damn time. I constantly have this discussion.
How many of yours are $250,000 a month?
They're not, but I constantly have discussions with clients about how this is while you are paying money from yourself to your former spouse, you have to recognize that the law is aimed at providing this resource for the benefit of your kids. And even though your spouse is taking that money, let's say they're paying the electrical bill or they're paying the mortgage, at some point
We're paying for their makeup. We're paying for their vacations.
It varies.
We're paying for their dating services for their new
It
boyfriend.
really varies. You have it's a 12, 14 to 15-year-old, I think, are the kids. That's their age.
I mean, if she's getting 248,000 a month, I don't think she's going to have to worry too much about a dating service. There'll be a lineup.
It's wild though. The whole $80 million that he paid for his previous divorce filing. $80 million. And this is just going to keep going. And where was it? Let me see. Share this tab instead. This was after the ruling that took place yesterday. So
I'm trying real hard right now to not have this woman
145.
just negatively affect my overall attitude, and it's hard. She is making me not a happy camper.
Kurt, this is just divorce law, buddy.
This is why I don't want to do divorce cases. This is why I don't want to be a family lawyer. It's too sad. I can't deal with this stuff. I just hate everybody.
Oh, I mean, I'm much happier doing criminal cases because I can tell you the clients in criminal cases are way more pleasant to deal with than the clients in family law cases.
Yep. And what I will
don't know
tell
how you do
you,
it, Rob. I wind up hating the other side and hating my own client probably by the time I'm done.
it's difficult. It's difficult because you have this back and forth because there's no right answers. There are no right answers in these cases. None. So it really is pretty wild. And the fact that People Magazine comes here, well, People Magazine comes out with this, and you can see where People Magazine kind of puts their blame based on how they're reporting it. Kevin Costner is quote unquote relieved the judge ordered his estranged wife to move out of the home. Come on, guys. Like, he's relieved. Yeah,
everybody's relieved when they win a court. You know, this is very standard PR things about like the things you say when you win a court decision. Is I'm relieved is one of those things that's fairly safe because, you know, you don't want to do a video thing where you're like, yeah, that B lost this and lost that, because it's a family law dispute, right? You just pick something that is like, yeah, I'm relieved. I'm glad this is over. This confirms the value of our court system. Those kinds of things. You don't want to. This is standard PR statement, like number 12.
Relieved is like the. If I was his attorney, I would have said relieved. Like, I would have said my client is relieved that.
Yeah, this is basic PR stuff.
He can regain access to the home that he owned before they were married. That's what the statement is. He's relieved that he can re-enter the home that he has been excluded from because she filed for divorce, and he didn't want to forcibly re-enter the home without assuring that they had a place to go or without all this other stuff. So yes, he's relieved that a judge set an end date to this madness, because what was happening was she made a comment in one of these filings. I'm trying to find the quote. So she's been there since May 1st, despite the clause that said leave within 30 days. Okay. He respectfully asked that she leave the property forthwith and no later than July 13th. What she was saying, where was it? In order to set up a suitable separate household, Christine's requested $248 million or $248,000 per month in child support.
I can do it for far less. You can get a nice apartment. My apartment costs less than $1,500 a month. I'm sure you can find a nice apartment for you and your kids for, less than $3,000 a month somewhere. It'll be nice.
Apparently, the thing is, he was offering $56,000 or something like that a month. You're telling me you can't find a home?
That's a lot of apartment.
A big ass home. And argue over it like long term later. So
these cases just make me way too emotional because I'm feeling very visceral.
It's really hard. And because he says she can afford to move, she has at her disposal. This is the attorney. She has at her disposal 1.5 in cash.
Yep.
1.5 million in cash to find alternative housing.
That's a lot of house.
Multiple 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom homes are available, located close proximity to Kevin's residence. And he assisted to relocate. At what point? And this was the source that she was saying she wants Kevin to provide what they are used to. Now, this is an interesting question. Provide what they are used to. Is that they referring to the kids? Or are they referring to you, or both?
He wants to bleed him for as much as he's worth.
It's a little
into the cleaners.
It's a little bit disingenuous because the thing is,
and another man goes MGTOW because of this kind of crap.
Oh, let's not go there.
No. The couple was scheduled for a conference management hearing on July 5th. So then this was essentially the argument that she was making was that she would move out at the end of August if they had a certain amount of money in place in child support. She conditioned the move out by the end of August if they had an agreement in place for the payment of child support. This is a lot of back and forth. So this is going to be very, contentious. I don't see how this gets resolved amicably. But both attorneys in this case, so Laura Wasser, who represented Johnny Depp, who represented a bunch of other celebrities in their divorce cases, is representing Mr. Costner. Christine Costner is represented by John Rydell and Susan Weissner, again, remarkably reputable divorce counsel. These attorneys they're going at each other right now. It's really going to be pretty nasty. The whole I will move out by August 31st, when you have an agreement you signed that directly still says, I will move out 30 days later.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
Prenups are prenups. That's why you talk to people before you execute them.
Where I am, prenups are actually fairly fragile. So talk to a lawyer, because your prenup might not be as good as you think it is.
Where I am, we fight over provisions in them, but not always.
Prenups get thrown out sometimes here, like entirely. They're just like, you had a prenup, but we don't think it's fair. So,
you'll enjoy this part. So some of the information that I was able to pull online was just the docket. Here's the docket. All right, here's the docket. And what they have was these different declarations, evidentiary hearing. This is evidentiary hearing on the prenup, by the way, on the validity of the prenup. Where do we get to the beginning? Here's the beginning of the pretrial conference. The trial is on the validity of the prenup. So November 27th, day 2 of the trial on the validity of the prenup. Day 3, day 4, day 5.
Dude.
Day 6.
How many days do you need to have on this?
Day 7.
What are you talking about for 7 days? Damn.
They just set a 7-day trial on the validity of a prenuptial agreement.
What the
That's technically speaking more days than you need to create the world.
Yeah.
That's more days than most murder trials.
Why do you need 7 days to decide whether it's valid? What is this bullshit?
7
because there's going to be a lot of argument
over the prenup. This is going to be like
an uncivil court each get 20 minutes. Go.
Attorney's fees.
I think this one might take a little more than 20 minutes because they might have a little more than 20 minutes worth of assets.
My God, you need 20 minutes to recite the assets without giving any descriptions, just numerically, probably. So 7 days.
I figure the only description you could get through in that time is just they have all the things. Name the things, they have it.
Yep.
Like
it's
solid gold toilet.
And what's funny is this? None of you get anything and all your assets go to charity. Go away.
Hey.
In Runkle's court, it would just be, I award you both nothing. I award all of it to me. This will probably be appealed, but not before I make it to the Cayman Islands with a suit or with a steamer trunk full of money.
What's funny about this is that this is one where I see a lot of opinions in the chat. All of you are right. All of you are wrong all at the same time. That's what family law is. I'm sorry. That's what family law is. All of you are right. All of you are wrong.
Better you than me. This is some bullshit.
Ugly. It is complicated for every argument. There is an opposite argument there. It is nasty. And there is emotion that plays into it. And it's up to the attorneys to try and both preserve their clients' rights, but also try to talk sense into to them and the other side, because neither of them will want this to go to trial. And someone asked me, how many jury trials do you see in divorce cases? And I said, none, because of what is happening in the chat right now. That is why that's why no divorces go to jury. None. Because opinions go so fast in one direction to the other.
I suspect that, I'm sorry, but can you imagine being a juror on that? I'd rather be a juror on a, child P file than like a family court file. Because at least then there's not actual kids sitting there crying. Um, that's just cruel to do to a juror.
Yep. Laura, Rob, why is this field of law for you? Because somehow I've been able to do it. It's because somehow I can understand the emotion and make the arguments and try to talk common sense. I live in the world of common sense, and I love to try and persuade people towards that resolution. But I also
someone has to do family law.
Someone has to
it's
do it.
ugly and messy. And
How do you handle
better
clients who want to
person?
burn it all to the ground?
But can you think of a better, nicer person to
Hard.
be doing it than Rob?
It's hard. It's really hard. And honestly,
do you
the
convince
clients
them that they're wrong, or do they be like, no, I want to burn it all to the ground?
I boot those clients, a lot of them. I mean, that's the thing. I have a choice of what clients I take on and what clients I don't. And if my client and I, that's one of the first discussions I have is, what are your goals? Like, I need to know what your goals are. And I need to see if those goals align based on the facts that you told me with something that I can advocate to the best of my ability. I need to actually be able to understand what you're asking for. And we might have differences of opinion. You might be really upset or angry, and I might be able to talk to you throughout this process and get you to see reason here and there. But sometimes when those goals are so misaligned, like, I will have people come in, they say, I want you to be a bulldog and roast this person. I don't want them walking away with anything. I want them just slaughtered. And I say, well, I respect the fact that that's what you want. I'm not your attorney. Like, I am not your attorney. That doesn't mean you don't have one out there for you. But
I also respect the fact that you're getting the hell out of my office.
Yeah.
Do you give them a referral?
No, with that, because the problem is I don't get along with a lot of attorneys that do that type of stuff or that act that type of way. So, but divorce is complicated. People think that these things are clear cut. Never. Not in family.
All right. Here's an interesting question. I'd be interested to see what your opinion is. Do you think that having no fault divorce is fundamentally a good thing?
It's tough. It's really hard. We have tried to do away with certain elements of fault in Virginia, and the debate that you have back and forth is highly contentious. For example, adultery. In Virginia, adultery is still criminal. It's criminalized in the statute, which means that when someone accuses a person of committing adultery, within that statute of limitations, they have the ability to assert their Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate themselves or admit or deny. And the adultery has to be corroborated and proven by clear and convincing evidence. Because what the courts are doing is the court is not there to punish. Divorce cases are not about punishment. They are not intended to be about punishment. The law was never designed to make them about punishment. They are intended to be equitable, which is fair. Fairness does not mean punishing the other person. Fairness might mean a disproportionate allocation of assets, where one person goes and squanders money and the other one kind of says, I didn't squander that money, and they get a disproportionate share of what's left. That might be equitable, but it's equitable. It's finding this middle ground of what's fair or not fair. And punishment is not in that metric. It's not supposed to be. So when you have fault and people have fault in the statute, fault implies an element of punishment or implies punishment. And it suggests to the parties who are filing on the basis of fault that the other side should be punished for that fault.
The other thing is that one thing you'd see when there was like fault required divorce is people intentionally manufacturing fault.
Oh yeah, the fake fault.
It's like, oh, we really want to get divorced, and we can't get divorced unless unless there's some issue. So we're going to invite a guy over, and like one of us is going to cheat, and it's entirely for the purpose of getting a divorce. And so they're like inviting their best friend over to cheat, because it's like, we got to do this. Trapping people into bad situations is just not a good idea.
But Kurt, I do see your point, because sometimes it makes it too easy. And in making it too easy to achieve the divorce, it doesn't really, it lets the kids get cast aside That's one of the problems that you run into where two parties find that it's too easy to file for divorce. It leads to that being the conflict resolution, that instead of actually learning how to work through conflict, they just file for the divorce. And now the kids are stuck between two households, and that doesn't turn out great for the kids. So it's this competing interest that every state has in determining how to go about divorce cases, where there really isn't a great answer in one direction or the other, because there's cases on both sides. There's cases where the kids end up in a far better environment because mom and dad can't get along when they're in the same house. So the kids just do better under that bifurcated household system. Or there's cases where the kids end up in two separate households and the kids don't do better in that setting. And mom and dad might have been able to resolve their differences if one of them didn't just decide they wanted to pull the exit plug really quickly. Every case is so fact specific that I hate to do the lawyer thing and say it depends, but it depends.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's due to my conservative or religious upbringing, or just because I really am at heart just a really die-hard romantic, which I think I really am, because I always want it to work out in the end, and I always get a little bit sad when there's divorce because I kind of always want it to work out. But whatever the combination of those things is like, the classic vows are like till death do us part. And I'm like, well, maybe we should really mean that. And, that allowing people to divorce is contrary to what marriage is supposed to be at some level. So maybe I'm just really, really old school and crotchety, but
no,
there's a significant part of me that just want to be like, you know what? Adultery, okay. Abuse, okay. Abandonment, okay. But those are all for cause,
But
because financial situation. How about no? Because rich or poor, because they got sick. How about no?
Let me add something to your analysis.
Just like if you're trapping somebody in a place they don't want to be, then what you're doing is you're creating a situation of unhappiness. Because even if they can't divorce, it's not going to be like happily ever after because they can't leave. It's just going to be miserable ever after. And
they're the ones that chose to enter marriage. They made the decision to enter this.
Sure, and they should be able to make the decision to get out. The government shouldn't be able to make the call as to when you can and can't get out.
Well, hang on. Hang on. Slow down. Both of you are right. Both of you are wrong. The government should be able to make a call in certain respects. Let's say there's kids involved. Let's say there's property involved that both of you own. You can't decide how that is supposed to be divided or how the child is supposed to be brought up. You have two individuals, mom and dad, who both have equal rights. Neither right is superior to the other on how they choose to raise the child. They can't decide it. Who else is there to decide it? That's one thing there. But the other part about the divorce stuff is, Kurt, you guys are both articulating the exact reasons why this is heavily debated. Because you're right, the government shouldn't really.
You can't make people like each other or get along.
No, but it's also not as simple as liking, Ian. Because just because you're unhappy, you
can't even make them get along or tolerate.
But here's the thing: you don't have a guarantee in your life of living a happy life. And I hate to say it that way, but you don't. Personal decisions impact the happiness that you have in your day-to-day basis. They do. If I go out and, let's say, for example, I go out and I eat exorbitant amounts of food, I never work out, I just really become horribly unhealthy, and then all of a sudden I say, well, I'm unhappy. Or if I go out and I do a stupid activity where I decide cliff jumping is a great thing for me, and I jump into water repeatedly and I bust my eardrums and I do things that make me physically unhappy, I engage in a voluntary act that put me there. I own responsibility for that decision. That is my decision, which means that there's an extent to which people have to live with the consequence of their decisions. If that involves marriage, that involves marriage and living with the consequence of that decision.
But if they can't get out of like living with each other, the alternatives still exist, which are abuse and murder.
Well, that's the other side of the argument. This is why I like the area of law practice lives in the gray area, because there's the other side of that, which is there are circumstances that might not give rise or might not go all the way to the level of being abuse under the law, but everyone recognizes as being abusive or being unhealthy, and that these two would be better being separated in separate houses and perhaps divorced, that it would be a better circumstance for all parties involved without meeting some magical threshold of abuse, adultery, any of the other allegations of fault. There's this middle ground where there's a whole large swath of cases that are stuck here in this gray area where there's not really an appropriate way of resolving them, which is why it's case by case.
Look, I mean, there's just some decisions that you can't take back. And I mean, the most obvious and most comparable decision is like the decision to have children. Like when you, if assuming you're making the decision to consciously have children, like you're actively choosing to have a child, right? This is your goal. You're probably going into it with with certain expectations about what your child will be like. But you roll the dice. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if your child's going to be born with a deformity or an illness. You don't know if they're going to be a good person or a bad person. You don't know if they're going to be a blessing or a struggle. It's like you don't know. And you don't obviously just don't get to like file some paper to make them stop being your kid. There's just some decisions you can't take back.
Some parents think that they can, and that's the other sad part is, look, I see
well, that's not good either, right? So it's like
it's not.
It's like so these are both they seem like they're very comparable choices. Like you make a marriage decisions, like, yeah, we're going to get wed and we're in it for life. It's like you have a child, you're in it for life. So like some decisions you just don't get to take back, just even if it's really hard and really inconvenient.
Mariko, great question. Have you ever represented a client that you felt could actually solve the marital issues and remain married? Yep, and they have. They are not that common because by the time they consult with an attorney, they're usually pretty far along the way. But I have seen couples that have hired attorneys, gotten into divorce cases. I have been the attorney in divorce cases. We have been in discovery. And then honestly, they have begun counseling through some very reputable counselors and people that helped work them through situations. And they decided not to. And they have come back to me several years later. And I've been very pleased that they are doing their thing. Now, that's not for everyone. Everyone is so unique.
Yeah. I was just going to say, for everyone in chat who's disagreeing with me, there's a strong possibility I'm talking out of my ass. I have a very idealized view of what things should be. I've never been married. I have a very idealized, and one of the reasons I haven't been married, incidentally, is because I have such an idealized view. I've had opportunities before to be married, and one of the reasons I didn't, because I was like, I have such an idealized view of what it's supposed to be, of how sure I need to be, that I wasn't willing to pull those triggers in certain situations, because it was like, this is like, I have such an idealized view. So it is totally possible I'm talking out of my ass, but I'm just trying to share my view as flawed as it might be.
It is not a flawed view, and I 1,000% want to encourage you to maintain that view towards marriage, because here's the thing: the only way that you will ever have a happy marriage is if you meet someone who has that same value placed on the bond that you're creating. A lot of this is about communication and having a mate that understands that they are entering into the same thing that you understand it to be. And this is not a religious discussion, guys. I'm not having this conversation about religion. Ian, Kurt, everyone who's listening to this right now, you guys have a unique perspective of what you believe to be a marriage, what you believe the values to be, what you believe the duration, the goals, what's supposed to happen there, whether it's some contractual arrangement, which is not disparaging towards people that believe that, whether it's something that's more deep and founded in longevity, like perpetuity. The point is, don't cast your values aside just to enter into the bond of matrimony, because that is guaranteed to fail. Where you guys view what that unit is, or where you view what that union is, as being something different from that of your spouse. If you guys have conflicting viewpoints on marriage and what it means, it can't survive in perpetuity. It can't survive the length of time. So Kurt, do not give up on that viewpoint, because the person that you find very much has to believe it the same way.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, it's a very, and it's one of the reasons also I can't deal with family law issues. It just makes me way too emotional. I can't, I try my personality, in case anyone couldn't figure it out, is very logic and very process oriented. And when it comes to family law, I just can't do it. I
It's
can't
hard.
do it. I can't fit it into any sort of logic box. You know, the logic part of my, I can't. It just is so emotional for me, and
Mhm.
it's like I can't deal with this in a rational way. And you know, I admit my faults. So
And Mel, this is an appropriate answer. And this is what I was saying about the conflicting viewpoints. It is fine to have that value that marriage is forever. Making it making it lawfully binding that you have to be in this contractual union where the government tells you whether you can or cannot leave, that's where we have the debate. So, like I said, the opinions are going to be far reaching on this one. And I don't think any one of you guys are wrong for having the opinions you have. It's
yeah,
complex.
I'm getting, and also because it's an emotional topic, I'm getting such pushback from the chat. It's
That's
like I don't
oh,
like.
I
I'm
am
not
too,
even sure
bud.
how to feel about anything I'm saying. Part of me is like,
Oh
I should
no.
just stop talking.
Yeah, I know you know you're fine. You can keep talking because the chat, they're all speaking from their own experiences. And their own
Yeah.
experience has no greater weight or lesser weight than your experiences in your life. This is your life. You get to choose how to live it, especially in this regard. It's when that question meets the law. Like I have cases where people have gone through with the divorce and
And
they've finished it and they're
it could be because
devastated.
it could be because my parents have been married 50 years and been together 60.
Yeah,
You know, it could be because, you know, I lived in, and my parents are happy. They're still happy with each other
good.
60
That's
years later.
wonderful. And that's a
And
great
so like
model for
it's
you
like,
to look
well,
for.
that's the model. So
Well, that's I mean, that's where I hope to be. I'm married. So far things are fantastic. It's but you never know what can happen, right? So
Yeah.
so
And everyone needs to be, guys, just don't view other people's relationships as setting a metric that you have to live by or that you shouldn't live by.
and then, you know, watch me get married someday and then be miserable and have to watch me eat my own words someday. That'll just be the whole kicker in the teeth on the whole thing.
No, I'm never going to wish that on you. I don't think that's appropriate for anyone to wish that on anybody.
nope. But
So, yeah, Mrs. Runkle hasn't killed Ian yet, so he's got to be doing something right.
yeah, that's true. Although I will say Zora is very unhappy because Mrs. Runkle is away for the weekend. So Zora is so the first way she showed her unhappiness with this was so she's like, Zora's going, I must check the house to make sure that Mrs. Runkle isn't hiding somewhere. So she went and did like a perimeter of the house. And then she's like, I got to go check the backyard. So I let her out in the backyard. She looks around. She goes and sniffs at the back gate. And she's like, okay, that's where she went. So it's like, okay, I've confirmed that she's gone. She comes back. She walks right up to me and she rips the most terrible fart you've ever smelled. And I was just like, oh God, no. And I was just like, all right, dog, I get that you're unhappy. Like, we'll sort that out later. But yeah, she's not thrilled about that. She's like, oh, I'm stuck with this one. So
Yeah. Catching up on some questions before they become out of context. Ali B, thank you for the super chat towards the 288K fund. Thank you, Ali. Angie, Kelly Clarkson has to pay like $50,000 child support for 2 kids and $115 a month in spousal. And that's probably some of the nuance that we're not seeing is there's probably something in the prenup that says either a waiver of spousal or some limited amount of spousal. And this is kind of a makeup in the spousal stuff. It's like I said, these things get contentious. Stephanie Coker, thank you very much. What's y'all's lawyerly opinion would improve family law case outcomes if they were a contingency like personal injury? Pros and cons? No.
It's
They
unethical.
are. They are. It is unethical to take a family law case on contingency.
Yeah,
it would also
ethics.
just it would result in so many of the bad tactics in family law becoming so
Yes.
common. Like, hey, let's file for a restraining order so that you get the house.
Yep. It creates something that that particular area of law was never intended to be.
Can you see people like, I want the kids, not because I actually want the kids or like the kids, but just because that'll save me some money for my lawyers?
Yeah. Now there's one exception to this, and it's where there's an established support order that requires the payment of obligations. That is the only area where lawyers are allowed to take a family law case on contingency fee, where it's collecting on some past due amount of support, because the way the court views it is that
that's just a debt.
It's collections. It's a debt.
Yeah.
And if the debt's never going to be paid, then paying some out of that debt to encourage a lawyer to go after it is in the interest of the child who's supposed to be receiving the support. That's the only exception. But no, doing it contingency is a pretty resounding like hellscape of law. Claude Simeon, they've been married for 20 years, prenup still valid. 7-day trial. We're going to find out. Sniffs, do you see women negotiating their prenup very often? Yes. I think the evening of the power dynamic would lead to a better relationship and less divorce. I say, as someone who is divorced, I don't disagree. I think that both attorneys, that's part of the premise behind prenups. If your significant other is asking you for a prenup, it is completely fair game, if you don't have the resources going into that marriage, for you to ask that person to help you find an attorney to review the prenup for you, where they would pay you a certain amount of money so that you can go out and find an attorney to help you review it, to advise you appropriately.
I would, and if you're the more powerful, wealthy person,
pay the money.
I would say don't wait for them to ask. Just say,
pay the money.
I would like a prenup. I am going to pay for you to have a lawyer. You pick the lawyer. I will pay their fees. Like here's 50 grand to that lawyer to advise you. Like if you're Kevin Costner, 50 grand is like, what you wipe with at the end of the day. It's just, that gives you tremendous advantage when you're later arguing that this prenup should be valid, because one of the reasons why a court might throw it out is, listen, you've got all this money and you made them sign a prenup without getting legal advice on it. We're not gonna like be happy with that. So again, talk to your own lawyer if you're contemplating this, because none of the things we say here are legal advice. We're just talking law. But
Ali B, thank you. Do you feel divorce are getting more and more messy, Rob? Not really. I think that there are always the messy ones, but I think that they're actually getting a little bit less messy because the cost thing, people are more aware of that, which makes them compromise a little bit more. So I don't know. It varies. I would say that in past cases, even 10 plus years ago, they were a lot worse than they are now. Now there are the exceptions. There are the cases that are still going to be nasty, period. But I don't think that you get the same level as we used to. Crazy Cat Queen, I divorced my emotionally abusive ex and I walked out with $800 because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. A lot of people match that, my dear. He lives in a $5 million house in Hawaii. I live in a double wide. I'm still better off. And a lot of people believe that as well. That's a trade-off. My job as a lawyer is to tell you what the cost benefit analysis is, and you make the decision. I don't make the decision for you. I tell you what you face. And that involves litigation. So I'm glad that you're better off. And I'm glad that you have that viewpoint. You're living a happy life. That's all I can ask. Chris Smith, Rob, is there precedent in which if a parent relocates for a job, does that guarantee them custody of a child in divorce? No. Relocation is hotly litigated back and forth quite often, especially when there's kids involved. And every state has their own Supreme Court analysis factors that have to be reviewed in the event of relocation. But parties are allowed to reach an agreement, a stipulation that in the event of relocation, by their very own agreement, they agree that the child will be best suited living in a certain place, and those agreements are generally enforceable. Amy T, meme, just settled a divorce over a visitation of a parrot. Neither may teach it negative. I saw that one. Neither may teach it negative phrases about the other. I went to law school for this. Yeah, the other one is the famous Beanie Baby divorce. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I've seen the Beanie Babies on the floor, the courtroom floor. That's so sad.
And the other funny thing is that if they didn't sell those Beanie Babies at this point, they're worth
0.
dog shit.
Yeah. And for
In
those
fact,
of
the
you who
court could have done
don't
them
remember,
a huge. The
Yep.
court could have done them a huge favor by.
How sad is that right there? Wow.
The thing is if they have kept these, then the court actually did them a huge disservice by not just ordering all of those Beanie Babies to auction and dividing the money. But yeah, you also see this in wills and estates
Mhm.
where people have to divide up like assets like this. So it's tragic.
Yep. But yes,
Just remember
those
that when you're
things
splitting
happen.
between two people, the right formula is ABBA, BAAB, and repeat.
Oh my gosh, that's really complicated.
Well, it's the fairest way to split things between two people and taking turns.
Opposite of amnesia is coming in with one of the points that gets made in these cases. My parents never divorced because of religious beliefs. I've paid so much in therapy costs as a result. Let people divorce when things are broken. That's one position. There are others and other people on the other side, but I completely understand why you have that conclusion, and it's not wrong. K-Rab, thank you, Kurt. Even if you decide to enter marriage 30 years later, it can become a bad situation. People change over time, and you can't force people to stay together. He filed for divorce because he was coming into money. I'm better off.
Yep.
But people also have to live their own life and their own experience. Like you can't compel others to live the life that you lived. This is one thing where there are certain mistakes that have to be lived through rather than taught. Like you can't. How many parents tell their kids not to do something? Don't touch that hot stove. Do not touch that hot stove.
Oh, I've got a story about that.
Don't touch the hot stove. No matter how many times you tell them, they're not going to learn until they touch the hot stove. At least some kids. Every kid's different. Every person's different. Family law and marriage is like that. What's that?
One fingernail is because my dad told me not to touch the metal grinder while it was on.
Don't touch the grinder.
And so I waited until he turned it off to touch the metal grinder. But those things have a lot of inertia even after you turn them off. Yeah, it should have been like, don't touch the metal grinder while it's spinning. Clarity would have been helpful, but what is it? Yeah. So, yeah.
Some things can't be taught. They can only be learned by experience. Allie B, my grandmother passed right before their 75th wedding anniversary, 75 years.
Dang.
And my grandfather grieved every day until he passed 3 years later. My word, that is what an amazing life. What an amazing life. That's really cool. And it's really cool that you got to see that growing up, Allie. Aqua 46784. I'm grateful for our family law attorneys. One of them helped us rescue our grandson, now son, from abuse and neglect via custody and adoption. I tell people I'm in disaster recovery. I am capable of doing it, therefore I do it because it needs to be done. Amazing meta. My uncle and aunt had 5 weddings, 2 vow renewals, 4 divorces, several separations. They just had their 52nd wedding anniversary of their first wedding. Wow. That is some epic levels there. The neurodivergent counselor, my parents' divorce made me very aware and cautious. However, I found my person and we deaf don't do things conventionally, but we're together almost a decade now, married for 8 years. Kurt, I may not agree, but your feelings are still valid and I get it. And that's what I was saying. They're valid feelings. You can't impose.
They're valid in so much as I have them, but they could be wrong.
That's fair, Kurt, but don't give them up just based on some theory that they might be wrong. They're there for a reason. Assess why you have them. Understand the reason why you have them. And the reason, based on the fact that I know you pretty damn well, the reason has a foundation. So don't just go ripping apart the foundation for the opinion that you have. Understand it and move forward with that opinion. It's a completely valid opinion to have. And honestly, I think it's a wonderful opinion to have that marriages should, and you should be looking for one that's going to last the test of time. But neurodivergent counselor, these are complicated situations. Amanda Beach Life, been married 3 times, learned what not to do from every one of them, looking for number 4. then there's that. Against the tide, important questions: are hot dogs a sandwich? Oh my gosh.
Oh, I actually saw this chat and I pulled up the video to discuss this super chat in advance
What's the
because I
video?
saw it.
Oh God.
I'm gonna. I have it. I've got it.
Okay.
I'm
We're
just
gonna-
gonna
we're
go
gonna
with
see that.
everything is a
buzz-
salad.
Let me buzz through these real quick because I don't want to.
Yep.
I don't want to get completely off topic. I have the video. Don't take it down.
Okay.
Jules,
Everything is a salad. That's the answer.
Oh gosh, Jules, you have to remember in marriage there are good and bad days. You have to be both. Be 110% each into the marriage. Not put it all on the other spouse to keep it going. If abusive / unhealthy, yes, get out. If abusive and unhealthy, that is a yes, get out. Braxton, thank you. Kurt, your view is 100% valid. And it's different for everyone. My best friend sat his parents down to tell them they needed a divorce because no one was happy. And yeah, Kurt's view, and it varies by different household, folks. Mary Coppola, thank you. Same beliefs as you. Kurt, married 33 years, married late in life. 31st. My younger sister did too. She was married for 25 years. Husband left and she passed away from a broken heart. That was the hardest death to ever watch, and it does happen. Mary, I'm sorry that you had to watch that. It's not easy to watch. I have seen it happen. It's tough, but I'm very glad that you had the experience that you did in your marriage. Daffy 9, parents married 70 years. Dad's a narcissist. Mom is a hostage. Stockholm syndrome. That's a different case entirely. But like I said, family law is different. Every household's different. Analytical learning. It's the old adage of money doesn't buy you happiness. It does not. Miriam, I'm with Kurt. Husband and I have been together for 26 years. We didn't believe in divorce as an option from beginning, so we worked through ups and downs. Our son appreciates and enjoys having us both. I loved having both of my parents, and I know that they fought over a lot. Pam Bystrak, met my husband in 1979, married from 1980 to 2018 when he died. Had our ups and downs, but because we both had the same view of marriage, we worked things out. And that was a wonderful point. You both had the same view of marriage. I'm sorry for your loss. I hope that you're doing well. And cheers to a wonderful marriage. Beats Kill Bean, thank you. Rob, how has being family law affected your personal position on getting married? It hasn't. I still love. Opposite of amnesia, in all things, we each make the choices we can live with for ourselves and let others make theirs. The world will be much more pleasant. That's fair. JR, hot dogs or a taco? We're going to get to that debate in a second. Lindsay, make your life choices for your reasons. Just don't force it on everyone else. Harm it none. Do as you will. That's fair.
Do as you will is a dangerous thing to say, though.
It can be in certain respects because that can be used to justify a lot of conduct that's not otherwise legal or appropriate. Amanda Wagstaff.
Now I suddenly have a craving for tacos, and it's not even Tuesday.
Oh, gosh. Family law lawyers
So,
are angels. Ours has been an absolute saving grace when navigating the DCF system. Everything after my nephew's bio dad. Family law lawyers, there are good ones, there are bad ones. Try to find the right one. And I'm sorry for cutting you off, Ian. Thank you, Amanda, for that. Good. Here's your taco comment. So, all right, Kurt, where's our video? Here it is.
Yep. All right. So in the question of is a hot dog a sandwich, I thought we could ask Ruth Bader Ginsburg her judicial opinion. So let's listen to this clip.
I was told not to ask her about any pending cases before the court, but I just had to press her on one of the most divisive issues facing our country.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
You're asking me? Well, you tell me what a sandwich is, and then I'll tell you if a hot dog is a sandwich.
A sandwich is 2 pieces of bread with almost any type of filling in between, as long as it's not more bread.
You said 2 pieces of bread. Does that include a roll that's cut open, but still not completely?
See, that's the crux. You've gotten immediately. See, this is why you're on the Supreme Court. That gets immediately to the question, does the roll need to be separated into 2 parts? Because a sub is not split, and yet it is a sandwich.
Yes.
So then hot dog is a sandwich?
On your definition, yes, it is.
Well played, Lady Justice.
Okay, that was the end of the clip. That's why I wanted to wait 2 seconds more.
How do you define it? It comes back to the definition. How do you define a sandwich?
Yeah. And while we're on the subject, because this is a nice way to break up things in our super serious thing, I will also share this clip, which I like, or this chart, which Ian has probably seen before, and if not, it will really appeal to his sensibilities.
Uh-oh.
So I would like to share with you the D&D sandwich
my God.
alignment chart. We have structural purism
I need a
and
second.
ingredient purism. So we can do it on these all kinds of levels. So are you a structural purist and an ingredient purist? If so, a BLT is a sandwich. Are you a structural rebel and an ingredient rebel? If so, a Pop-Tart is a sandwich. And hot dogs are true neutral. But you're the D&D expert. You tell me, Ian, what you think.
They're all salads. Everything is a salad.
Uh-huh.
So a BLT is a salad. It's just a salad that includes bread. They're all salads. Everything is a salad.
Mm-hmm. This answers all your questions.
It does.
So do you have to have a classic shape? Do you have to have a shape that just has a container on two sides, or can it be enveloped in any way? And do you have
Oh, I mean, a salad
toppings,
is any
broader
shape you
range
need
of
it to
any
be.
food?
A salad is any shape you need it to be.
Yeah.
So a sandwich is a subtype of salad, even if you drop it on the floor. It remains a salad. You probably don't want to eat that salad anymore, but it remains a salad.
Yeah. Yeah. So this for once and for all answers all questions relating to hot dogs. So now you all know where you align on the chart. You in chat. Here's a good way to engage the chat. Where do you see yourselves? Which one of these are you? You can give in chat where you are in this alignment chart. And we can see where we stand as we have a fight and civil war in the chat.
Somebody's trying to tag me to the cube rule of food identification.
The cube rule?
Yeah. So basically, it's just how many sides is there bread on.
Yeah.
But it's a long webpage, so I don't think we can bring it up easily.
A chip buddy, for those of you who are asking, is more of an English UK dish. It is 2 pieces of bread with French fries in between, because in the UK, French fries are called chips. And then other sorts of sauces are added. So it's French fries between bread with various sauces and sometimes other ingredients. So now you know, for those of you not from the UK. So I'm here to help.
I went and refilled the beverage. My AirPods mercifully spaced out.
Rob,
So
which one of these are you?
I am. I'm a neutral. I can argue that a hot dog is a sandwich. I can make that argument. I'm comfortable with that argument.
Okay, well.
This is the cube rule of food.
It's too conformist. I can't do that.
Toast, sandwich, taco, sushi, soup, salad, bread bowl, calzone. I like it. Yeah, that works. Yeah,
Well,
that works.
So does that mean a sub is not a sandwich?
A sub would be a sandwich.
A sub kind of looks more like a taco because it's 3 sides.
Yeah, if it's 3 sides, then it's a taco.
Yeah, so a sub is a taco.
So is a sub a taco?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're really old school, when Subway used to do the triangle cut on their bread, for those of you who remember Subway, they didn't used to cut it in half. They used to do it. They used to do a V cut. Then I guess old school Subway was sushi because it was surrounded on every side.
Okay, interesting.
Or a calzone, maybe.
Huh.
I still go with my rule, which is that they are all salads. So a soup is a salad.
Don't get me started. Do not start on the soup salad thing. That is a different one. Like it's really funny. Like lawyers are good at this. This is what we're taught to do.
Cereal
soups
soup
or salads.
I get that. Is cereal soup? I don't think so.
No, cereal is a salad.
Because a soup, a soup, by my definition, has a base that you begin with. The base itself is not simply the broth; it is a construct of what makes the broth is the base. For example, a roux is the base layer to a soup, or a stock. A stock is something that's a construct of various ingredients to create a stock, which is your base layer of a soup. Cereal base is not the base of a cereal is not milk. Milk is not a construct of different things. Milk is just it is its own ingredient. You don't have to put two things together to make a milk. You have to put several things together to make a stock.
So what about cream soup?
A cream soup?
Yeah.
You're using milk as one of several ingredients to create the cream base.
Well, usually I'm just taking like a cream and throwing stuff in it.
And by doing so, you are altering the base of, oh shit.
See, like when I make a chocolate cereal, I alter the milk by adding the chocolate puffs. Because now the milk is brown.
Yeah, but does that turn on whether you drink the milk or not? Because I am not a milk drinker at the end of my cereal.
I mean, you're gonna get milk in your spoon. I assume you're not like straining out the cereal, because that would be like monstrous, and you should probably be in jail if you're sitting there like sieving out.
That'd be great.
spoon.
I like it.
I have a
Are there
slotted
spoons
spoon.
there are spoons that are slotted so that you can
Slotted milk
strain
spoon.
out the cereal so you don't get milk in your that'd be good.
That's good. And that's good. At that point in time, cereal would then be like something like a French fry. Like you are using the base to add flavor to the cereal, but you're just eliminating the base. Oh, okay.
But nobody eats cereal like that. You should go to jail if you eat cereal like that.
I don't know. I'm now very curious. I kind of want like a soup spoon that is a strainer soup spoon.
Yeah.
You
They
want to
must
know the
exist.
worst thing
What's
that
the
you've
worst
ever
thing?
heard?
Go on.
So when I was a kid, I had really bad allergies, really bad. And I was allergic to cow's milk, goat's milk, several other forms of milk, like all of the kinds of milk you could buy, as well as like the milk substitutes. So guess what I had my cereal with?
If you say water, I'm going to be
Nope.
so
Guess again.
disappointed.
It's going to make
Chicken
you
stock?
unhappy. Nope.
What?
Fruit juices.
You monster.
I mean, I was allergic to everything else, so it wasn't.
I move
like,
we expel
by
Ian
choice.
from the Friday Night Frenzy Club.
It
Fruit
wasn't by
juice?
choice. I had no other options because allergic.
Well, that also just limits your options on cereal, because imagine like putting like Cocoa Pebbles or something like that.
Oh no, Cocoa Pebbles do not go good with orange juice. I can tell you that.
Oh. My mom has used like coffee creamer. It's been one of the funniest things. I came downstairs once, and I mean like the International Delight, like the flavored coffee creamer, like French vanilla. I came downstairs once and she's sitting there. I was like, "What are you eating? Cereal?" We don't. And I looked at her. "We don't have milk." And she goes, "I know." "What did you put in it?" She goes, "Creamer." And she was sitting there with like a bowl full of coffee creamer and her Cheerios in the bowl. And I was like, "What is going on?" Ugh. She loved it. So
That's fair.
Nicole, food comes in three forms: sandwiches are stacked foods, salads are random configurations, soups are wet salads, and then there are dumplings, which are the meaning of life. Those are the rules.
Good dumplings are hard to find.
Nicole, that's not too
are,
bad.
Dumplings are ravioli.
RJ McDougalheim, cereal would technically be more like a gazpacho. Oh gosh, you guys
Which
are
is a
killing me.
soup, which is a form of salad.
Debbie W, incorrect. A Pop
In
Tart is
what
a
ways
ravioli.
is soup like
Oh.
salad? It doesn't. Pop Tart is ravioli. I guess Pop Tart is ravioli. Yeah,
That's not bad. The Pop Tart ravioli thing, I can get behind that. Big Dog 5758. I'll be blowing around dust tomorrow at work and housekeeping. Will give me something to listen to tomorrow. Send cool temperatures to Glendale, Arizona. I will send cool temperatures wherever I have the power to send cool temperatures right now. Cat in Virginia, and you wonder why a bee is a fish. just there. Oh gosh. Equality, food and grammar are always contentious topics. Yep. Like, is a tomato a vegetable or a fruit? Nicholas, ACC to physics. Custard is both liquid and solid.
And it's also a salad. Kurt is getting annoyed.
There's also an option that it's a chowder, translating legalese. What's the difference between chowder and a soup?
They're both soups.
With cube rule, real sushi is wasabi sandwich. Oh no. You
I'm
make
getting very
chocolate milk
hungry
with
now, I
Cocoa
have to say.
Krispies. I
I'm just
know it's
contemplating what I'm eating at
so
this point.
good. You make chocolate milk with Cocoa Krispies. I am not a milk drinker at the end of my cereal. Henhouse Bath Company wine is salad. Well, that logic means that I eat salad every day, so I'm happy with that. That's awesome.
You're like,
Adrian,
it's healthy. I have 3 salads a day.
I do. Adrian Angevine, Rob, a slotted cereal spoon is more commonly called a fork. False. What I am referring to has like it's a cupped spoon.
It has the
so I can
bowl,
actually-
but it just has
there's the
grady,
bowl element.
grated.
I do
Yeah.
actually own a slotted, like, small spoon. So
See, I need one of these. I think this is a phenomenal idea. And now it seals everything. I need cornflakes now. Everyone's now hungry.
yeah.
I'm traveling. I am radical sandwich anarchy.
Since we're more than 2 hours in, I can make this joke. Cornflakes are so that you don't touch yourself.
Oh my god!
That is actually what they were invented for.
Are you freaking kidding me?
No,
No,
Kellogg
otherwise the
was
joke
a
wouldn't be funny.
religious. He was a religious weirdo. I'm going to go a little step further. He was a nut. He was actively crazy. He basically thought that all of life's ills, or a lot of them, came back to people touching themselves. And so he was like physically dangerous as a human being, because you should not give this guy power by any stretch. But he set up like this commune to, sort of establish things in. And one of the things he had was this cereal, which he thought you didn't want too much flavor at breakfast, because otherwise it might lead you to get handsy with yourself.
No. Oh.
I'm not even kidding. Like, they dressed in very plain clothing because they thought that might also cause you to get handsy with yourself. But he also
you didn't know about this aspect of breakfast cereal, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay,
but he
glad we
also
could inform you.
made torture implements to stop people from doing that, and did things with acids. So he is one of those people that if you had a time machine, you'd go back and beat with a hammer, because he was we'd lose out on cornflakes, but you would save a lot of people from a lot of torture. So
the other question, funny experience was on Blakely when I was there. We had these 2 lovely individuals over for dinner, and I was opening a bottle of wine, and I used a wine opener that is essentially 2 handles that grip the top of the bottle, and then you depress a handle and you retract, and the corkscrew plunges in, then pulls the thing out.
Yeah.
And the person asked me, they said, well, this is fantastic. It's not one of these electric battery operated. It's not something I have to use a wine key. How do I go about finding this? And my mom said, you can find it on Amazon. And they go over and they look at the label of it, and they said it's
called a rabbit.
It's called a rabbit. And I jumped up and
when
God,
you Googled, when
I-
you went
oh, yeah, I did.
Amazon for rabbit, what else turned up?
I did. I said, no, wait. I said, wait, before you go to Amazon, you have to type in rabbit wine opener, because if you just type rabbit into Amazon,
That will
you're
be a
gonna
different
get
product.
a lot
That's
of
for opening
products.
something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a really fun conversation to have in the presence of my mother, because I was trying to prevent this poor couple from going on Amazon and learning something in a very uncomfortable way. This doesn't open my wine. No, it doesn't. Sorry.
I might be a bad person. I would have been like, you know what? I'm just going to let this happen.
I had to stop it. They were too innocent. Traveling science man, thank you for the woodworking fun. And then I saw your chat earlier. I'm sorry I didn't pull it up. I do have these starred because I want to get back to them. Thank you very much for that. Debbie, Supreme Court's already decided that tomatoes are vegetables, so no need to debate that one
Next
anymore.
v. United States, 1893,
That's absolutely
baby.
correct. Laura Mont, my sister and I used to have apple juice in our Rice Krispies or cereal Cheerios.
Yeah, I've done that. It tastes way crappier than milk. One of the best things to happen to me was allergy shots, which kind of sucks because you go in and you get an injection like every week for years, but I don't have massive allergic reactions to everything anymore. So I can eat regular cereal now and it's amazing. So yeah.
So let's go. Oh no. Graham crackers were also created to distract. Do I want to know this story?
Probably not. You should also, if you ever want to think of like the best thing for Halloween, it's a guy named Dr. Henry Cotton. He is he had this theory that so to give you this sort of history of psychology / psychiatry, it was pretty dark at one point because what happened is they discovered syphilis. And the reason why this was a really bad thing was that syphilis can cause mental illness.
That's true.
Having discovered that, a fair number of people decided that every mental illness had to be connected to some mystery disease that we hadn't discovered yet. You also get that the initial cures for syphilis were actually pretty terrible. There's literally, I think somebody got a Nobel Prize for what's called the malarial cure, which is literally injecting people with malaria because the malaria gives you a high fever, which is high enough to kill the syphilis, and then you could treat the malaria. So that's
one way to solve the problem, I guess.
It was actually a really huge invention. But here's the problem. They had this notion that there's all these mystery diseases that we haven't discovered yet that are causing, and they didn't know what to do about them. So they did things like, putting people in ovens to try to heat them to higher than the malaria could get them. But Dr. Henry Cotton had a different notion. He thought that they were, that disease was located primarily in teeth. So what he would do is he would start pulling teeth until they got better. Now, here's the problem is most mental illnesses are not responsive to pulling teeth.
No.
In fact, a lot of them are made worse by some jackass ripping your teeth out.
Yeah. Like all the bad ones.
Like pretty much all of them. Like even mild depression is made way worse by some guy coming in to rip out a tooth every once in a while. So, the other problem that you get is that people would sometimes run out of teeth before they got better.
Oh, no.
And then that didn't tell him that his theory was wrong. That actually told him that you had to start removing other parts because the source of infection had to be somewhere else. So he'd start with tonsils and sinuses and then move on to basically anything he could cut out without killing people.
Lovely.
So he is like an absolute horror movie villain. And if I was writing a horror movie, it would literally just be, this is an old asylum with the ghost of Dr. Cotton in it. He's one of those people where if you get a time machine and a shotgun together at one place, he's on the list. So it's like, hi, I understand you've got a theory. I have a competing theory. Bang. All right, next guy on the list. Let's go. I'd put him higher than Kellogg. So it's like Hitler, Cotton, Kellogg in that order. Sadly, there's not really a good way to line them up to save bullets, but yeah, you just do what you can.
And now my mind is going to the dark places of basically all medicine, and I'm going to some very dark places in my mind. Thanks. Let's talk about Tuskegee. Let's not.
No, let's
Ooh,
talk about like. Wait, no, nope. Tuskegee. Bury when.
How about this?
Grandma
We'll talk
had
about something a little happier.
cranberry juice mixed with aloe vera in her cereal. Lived 96 years. Well, I know people who
Christ,
have
that's
like an
because-
old fashioned every day that lived 96 years. Like,
That's because death didn't want to come near her in case she offered a bowl of that.
a bowl of cereal. What's this? Okay. Yep. This is tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. I am.
Why does that look
running-
terrifying?
Because it's mildly terrifying.
You may grift away.
So I'm running the role of law, or I'm running on role of law, a sort of lawyer's. David is out. He's, I think he's at Gen Con. So I'll be running a sort of replacement thing there. And we will, I don't want to say too much about it because there are surprises. I think it's, so it'll be on Role of Law and also simultaneously put on Hogue Law's channel. So you can watch it wherever you prefer to watch things. So,
All right. I love it. Okay. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m., right? My time?
Yep, 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 my time. So, yeah.
You got it. Okay. So let me do this. Let me swoop and we'll get to our last story of the evening. Well, actually, before that, I do want to make a comment that one of the channel faithful, Jen Edwards, is going through a tough time. And what I will, and thank you, Kristen, for pointing this out. What I will do is I will post, she's going through a tough time, and I'm going to post the GoFundMe link that she has set up in the chat. If you wish to contribute, please feel free to do so. I know that people go through tough times a lot. Do not do so if you cannot afford to, or if you don't wish to. This is not an imposition. This is something where if you are desirous of doing this, please do so. Okay. So that is being posted in the chat. The mods can repost that if they see it. Thank you guys for doing that. And Jen, I hope you're doing okay. But let's swoop to the last story of the evening, and we'll do traditional swoop. So, Kouri Richins.
Oh, yes. She's fun, isn't she? And by fun, I mean horrible.
She's a character. Kurt, do you know this case?
Remind
This
me.
is the
sometimes names, but if you tell me details, I might remember.
the fentanyl Moscow Mule.
Okay, then I remember the case.
Allegedly poisoned her husband with the Moscow Mule.
Yep.
And then proceeded to sue the husband's estate for $1.9 million.
Yep.
So the estate fought back and the estate sued back. I expected this. They're trying to set aside all the different transfers and transactions. But honestly, when I was reading through this, and there was one part of this that I kind of wanted to get to, was, the case that's kind of pending in trial right now, because a lot of this stuff is kind of boring. And I don't mean, we've talked about this stuff before. The premarital agreement, the transfers of the money, that's all been in there. But what was interesting was there hasn't really been a really thorough civil filing of the allegations surrounding the death. But the sister who filed the lawsuit on behalf of the estate, she's not the state. So she can kind of say anything she wants and give a recitation of the facts. So on March 4th, at approximately 3:13 a.m., EMS personnel and the Summit County Sheriff's Department responded to a 911 call from Eric's home. When authorities and medical personnel arrived, they found Eric lying unresponsive on the floor. All attempts to administer life-saving measures were unsuccessful, and they pronounced him dead at the scene. At or about the same time, they interviewed Kouri, the wife who's now on trial for his death. During those interviews, she made the following statements. On March 3rd, around 9 p.m., Kouri and Eric were celebrating closing the purchase of a new house. During the celebration, Kouri made Eric a Moscow Mule in the kitchen, delivered it to him in his bed. The only people in the house at the time were Kouri, Eric, and their 3 young children. Kouri initially went to her own bed, but shortly thereafter went to sleep with one of the children who was having a nightmare. When Kouri left her and Eric's bedroom to go to the child's room, Kouri left her phone plugged in next to her bed and did not take it to the child's room. Kouri woke up at 3 a.m., did not say why, at which time she returned to her and Eric's bedroom. Upon her return at 3 a.m., she observed that Eric was cold to the touch, called 911. After calling 911, she attempted to perform CPR. So that was the statements, which, talking to the cops, whether any of those are true or some of them are false. If one of them is false, it hurts your case. So lawyers generally advisable at that point. Contrary to Kouri's statement that she left her phone in her and Eric's bedroom, her phone's call data records and carrier records indicate that the phone was moving multiple times during the night, including at 10:30, 3:08, and 3:21. That could be consistent with the bed thing. Kouri locked and unlocked her phone at least 4 times between 3:07 and 3:19.
She said that she didn't touch her phone during the night. And so, yeah, she obviously touched it.
Yep.
Not in the Kellogg way.
Unless it was 10:30 that the night terrors were occurring and she walked and then walked back and plugged her phone back in, but that doesn't really make sense. At 3:08, the phone moved 240 feet. That is not an inconsequential amount. That is actually quite a distance. And 4, Kouri had deleted the phone's search history, call registries, and numerous text messages that she had sent and received in the late hours of March 3rd, early hours of March 4th. That last little one is pretty curious. Authorities later learned that the person with whom Kouri had been texting that night had also deleted the same text messages. When EMS performed CPR, they observed that Eric began to foam at the mouth, which is an indicator that no one had performed CPR previously. An autopsy and subsequent toxicology testing confirmed that Eric died of a massive fentanyl overdose. The ME found 5 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in Eric's system. And the fentanyl was illicit as opposed to medical grade. So not a patch, not something you get from a hospital. It was actually purchased from a dealer. The ME stated that the fentanyl was ingested orally, so they found traces in the stomach rather than in the blood flow only. Nothing in the medications contained fentanyl, and they found no evidence of that. So, moreover, through various statements to police, and this one's going to make every defense attorney in the world cringe, Kouri insisted no less than 10 separate times that Eric did not use illicit drugs, did not have substance abuse problems, and had demonstrated no suicidal tendencies. Those are affirmative statements that she did not have to make, that she chose to make.
Those are the dumbest statements to make, because
they're absolutes.
Well, and they're also eliminating great defenses that she could have argued. Like, hey, I never knew he had an addiction issue, but clearly he must have, because, or otherwise, like, hey, he had a terrible addiction issue and I was going along with it to, and I was going along with it, getting him his fentanyl because, like, he had this problem and it wasn't really a big deal. We were functional, but that's why I bought all this fentanyl. Might have actually been like an argument. And
it's almost like talking to the police is a bad idea.
Well,
oh my goodness.
The talking
it's
to police
also like
been,
searching your things on your phone is a bad idea.
This part, it was this part in the filing that caught my attention, because I don't think I've ever seen in the pleadings before this all of the search history.
Yeah, some of the stuff is really good. I like this stuff. This is good.
Some of this is just like, some of this is great for conviction. Other things are great for sentencing.
Yeah, I have seen some of this. I have seen some of this in some of the state's filings, but I haven't seen this comprehensive list. And this is what caught my eye. So this was her search history on her phone or other electronic devices. Can you delete everything on an iCloud account?
I mean, that's a reasonable question. Just maybe not when you're suspected of a murder.
Can deleted text messages be retrieved from an iPhone?
Also a reasonable question. Just context is bad.
Can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone?
That's a strange question to be searching for the innocent.
Yeah, that's a bad question.
How to lock my iCloud?
I mean, That could be innocent in other contexts.
How to permanently delete my information from an iPhone remotely.
Remotely is, I mean, if you lost your phone, that would be reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Can cops force you to do a lie detector test? One, no, but
Yeah,
don't
the answer
search
is
that on
no,
your
but
phone.
also maybe after you've just committed a homicide is the wrong time to search that.
What are you allowed inside of Utah jails?
That's just a bad question in the context.
Will life insurance pay if death certificate says pending?
I'm going to go
Now-
with probably not.
There's a legitimate reason to ask this question.
Because I think that the death certificate already said pending. So that one,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense.
That could be legitimate.
Yeah. I'm
Immediately
giving her
followed
the
by
benefit of the doubt here.
luxury prisons for the rich in America.
God, no. Like, as a defense lawyer, I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
God damn it,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So this is one of those that comes up in sentencing.
Well, and not just sentencing, but also for the purpose of conviction, because it's like, oh, so you thought you were going to jail as a result of this, but also you were like, how do I arrange this to go to a luxury prison because you're rich? Let's put this in front of the jury.
Yeah.
And you can put this in front of the jury on conviction aspects. Like, this can go directly to the jury because it's not purely relevant to sentencing. The jury's going to hate her ass for seeing that, because the jury's going to be sitting there going, her income in the average month is my income in the average never. Like, she's got more
worse.
debt than I've ever had money ever. Yeah, it's...
If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as?
Homicide.
20 years to life.
FBI analysis of electronics in an investigation.
Pro tip: they're going to get that search.
Yep.
Is Find My iPhone ever wrong?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
All the time.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Can the FBI find deleted messages?
Yes.
Well, would you really like the answer to that question?
I mean,
she's going to find out the answer to that question because it will be revealed to her in discovery. Many of these questions she's about to find out the answer to in a very interesting way. What are you allowed to find? What are you allowed inside Utah jails? She's going to get the answers to her questions.
Well, she has that one. That's already been.
Yeah, I know.
She's performing some very serious science right here.
Yeah.
What does the FBI do with electronics for searches? Well, this, like literally this. Okay. Can the cause of death be changed on a death certificate?
Probably.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Oh,
why would the FBI be involved?
Well, either you've committed a federal crime or the local police have asked for help.
What is considered a lethal dose of fentanyl?
Less than you gave him.
Uh-oh, Detective Jamie Woody relationship to Richens.
Yeah. The problem here is that she didn't use today's sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN helps you.
I have never seen all of those written out, and I am always a skeptic of these cases when they come up, and I'm like, make the state prove their case. Make the state prove their case. These are really bad. These are really bad.
The thing is, this is stuff that even if you were innocent and you suspected somebody else had done it, will convict the out of you. Like, I could convict any person with these texts.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
like,
no sweat. Just point the jury in the general direction of the defense table. They're fine.
And it's questions like this: can cops force you to do a lie detector test? Not like you have put yourself in that question. What are you allowed inside Utah jails?
yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, that's how I might search something if I was writing a book or something. But yeah.
Oh, this is really bad. So those are the searches, and then
Yeah, some of these are probably things I've Googled, but it's also not because I've been suspected of a fentanyl murder in the recent past.
I mean, I've
You know?
definitely Googled Detective Jamie Wood's relationship to Kouri Richins.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we have all the accounts that she's trying to consolidate and find out. So there's the grandmother account. This is going to make it worse because we haven't talked about this one yet. So Eric had at least 2 retirement accounts on which the estate could have been the beneficiary or should have been. So he receives money from his grandmother, the grandmother account. Grandmother account, 40,000 time of the death. So this is money that Eric inherited. And then the Utah retirement savings, a URS account, etc. All of these are apparently having been misappropriated, wrongfully or fraudulently obtained, the payout of these retirement accounts. So grandma's retirement account has been liquidated and paid out. Estate property after Eric passed. So we've got cash. First of all, that's a lot of cash to be carrying around.
I have never had that much cash in one place.
What about that one? $25K on his person at the time of his death.
I have
Also
had
no.
that much cash in one place, but it was not my cash.
Okay.
Could have been.
It could have been, but as a
Don't let your dreams be dreams, Ian.
as a law student, I was sent to pick up money from the evidence locker. And so it wasn't my money, and they had me on video picking it up. So it kind of needed to get to where it was supposed to go.
Did you say there was $200,000 in here? It looks like it's only 170. I think you guys miscounted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So then
What
there's
do I look
vehicles.
like a cop?
And she writes these statements, which is asking for new titles. This is after the sister was appointed personal executive. That Eric had gifted her the defender. That no one had been appointed personal representative after there was lawsuit over this. That the value of the entire estate subject to administration did not exceed $100,000. Mind you, she is sued for $1.9 million. And that she's entitled to take the receipt and ownership. So she signed that. Stole other state property, etc. And then you've got this one, which I think is the most important to the estate. Almost 1 year to the day after Eric's death, Kouri wrote and published and began selling the book, Are You With Me? So essentially they're suing for unlawful
What is the title supposed to
appropriation.
mean? What does it mean?
Well, and the funny thing is they don't even give it the name. They restyle it within the pleadings as the unlawful book.
But what is that title supposed to convey to me? Are you with me? What the hell does that mean? Is this trying to sell me a pyramid scheme or what? What's going on here?
No, it's trying to tell the kids that it's okay that their dad's not around because he's around them all every day, all the time. It's more twisted than you originally thought.
Oh, I mean, it's plenty twisted.
I liked it when he was corporeal, though.
So the unlawful book purports to provide heartwarming and reassuring guidance for children on how to deal with the death of a loved one, namely by referencing events and details from Eric's life and his relationship with his children. You keep my children's name out your fucking mouth. That's what this lawsuit is.
Oh, I mean, but they do it wrong. They fucked up this lawsuit.
Why?
I'm sorry. They're asking for an injunction. This is the wrong ask. What you ask for is the copyright.
Yeah, no, they get that. No. They do that too. They ask for the money. Here, we'll go to the ask.
They ask for the money, but the money's the wrong thing. They want the right to the book.
Yeah, they want the right to the
money.
book.
They want the copyright.
Retroactive.
They don't ask for that, and they fuck that up.
They need to amend their pleading to ask for the copyright to the book.
Yeah, and they need to credit me in the amended pleading because I said this on a stream last Monday or last Friday, and I'm like, get it right. This is not rocket surgery here. You gotta ask for the copyright. You can't. They're not going to get the injunction.
Where's the prayer for relief? Okay, so they ask for So conversion, they want judgment. Okay. 200K. Okay. Plus punitive. I see that. Second cause, they want 30,000. Right? Plus punitive. I can see that. Third cause, they want 84,000. That's a stolen tax. Sure. Got that.
They want
No
all the money.
punitive. No punitive on that one because there's no punitives for that. Fourth cause, conversion, theft, or retirement. They want 55,000 plus punitives there. Appropriate. Fifth cause, they want 300,000. Okay, plus punitive. All right, that's the estate property. Then they want fraud. They want 2 million. Okay, plus punitive. I think you've pleaded at least. Then they assert alternatively that they want quasi-contract, unjust enrichment, or quantum merit. That basically is if you don't find that there's a valid existing contract, find these other equitable remedies can create that.
Yep.
Then they want breach of fiduciary duty. And this one is 567,000. That's misappropriation of money and breach of duty that you were bestowed. So give me all of that plus punitive. Fair. Ninth cause of action, judgment for that amount. All right. No problem. Then they want 10th, which is the wrongful lien. This is the money that she incurred debt on the house. So 250 actual, trebled, which I don't know why we still say trebled. It should just say tripled. Literally is tripled. That's the
Tripled
trouble.
is
There
a
was-
derivative word from trebled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
750K. So
It's the language changes faster in regular use than it does in
Legal. Yeah.
legal
this
use.
is going to be funny. They wanted accounting for all of the activities with regard to the finances. For example, where'd the money go to buy the fentanyl, or where'd the money come from?
I mean, theft,
I'd be curious.
like literally just crime.
Mm-hmm.
Just put down a source of income, crime.
No, here they said on the 13th cause of action, they want a judgment against her in the amount of all revenues generated from the sales, as well as an injunction barring from dissemination, selling, or reproducing.
They really should ask for the copyright.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean for prospective? Like just they want all, like
I want the copyright to the book.
Leave it
Forget
out
the
there.
dissemination
We're just
only. I
going
want
to
the
make the money.
copyright.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see that. 1.5 plus double damages. And then they want 5 million. So I would say that the attorney that filed this, I like them, except for the copyright. You've got me on board with that. I understand that now. But Mr. Tracy, well done, sir. Like that's a clapback. So you sue the estate for 1.9 million. Sure, we'll air your dirty laundry. Anyways, that was my catching up. So I've been catching up on stuff law related all week, and it's kind of where we are. Translating legalese. She may not be the copyright holder. She had the book ghost written. Interesting. But
Even if she did, it should be work for hire. She should have.
Yeah.
She would have had
She
it.
should have gotten copyright. If she didn't, then she's an idiot.
Ryan Man YYC, contractors keep a lot of cash on hand, don't they? They do. I don't know that I've heard of contractors keeping 200K in cash on hand. So
That's a lot of cash to have on hand.
it really is. So I've got to play some catch up on super chats, and then I've got gifted memberships to go through. If either of you are tired or would like to check out, just let me know. Up to you. Otherwise, it looks like I've got 12 of these starred, and then I'm going to be wrapping this up.
I mean,
What are you guys thinking?
you know,
I'll stay with
I'm
you for
always
12.
down
That's
to
not very
plan.
long.
Okay, I can do that. Cat in Virginia, the Voting Rights Act was a good one. I miss it. It was good for a time. That was one of those that was time set, and they never really got the time down. It's an interesting to see those Supreme Court cases. K-Rab, Kouri's wish was to get Pixie to 100K while he is here to see it. Pixie's been gently reminding us that Kouri will not be with us for long. I understand that, and please check out Pixie's page, Kouri's page. He's a good kid. You know, every now and then they show up in the chat, and I love seeing them here. It really is it brings a lot of happiness to me to see him out doing the things that he loves to do. So please go check both of those channels out if you don't mind. Kristen M96, I was laughing and sewing, almost got finger with the sewing needle. That's not fun. Katrina Turner, my 27-year-old son just glared at me and went, "Now tell him you spent the afternoon on rollerblades, you stubborn butt." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rollerblades. No, not anymore. I don't go do stupid stuff anymore. I know that I can't do it right now. Please take care of yourselves, folks. Niklas, thank you. If Musk hasn't acted on Boozy's spoutable, then can Mark Zuckerberg argue that he cannot act on one of many?
No, that's not an argument. You don't have to sue people.
Yeah,
Also, the
that's right.
spoutable issue is a different issue because there's no argument that he was. Spoutable, he bought like some $89 platform off the internet.
Yeah, and he was scraping.
There's no argument that he stole code or anything like that. So,
yeah, and scraping data from a public site that can get you banned from that site, but that doesn't get you an independent lawsuit, generally speaking. So
there are circumstances where it might, but I don't think this is one of them.
It's you'd have to do some pretty serious scraping to do it.
Yeah.
Mama Bear for Kurt's tinfoil hat fund. Well, I'll take that for some of mine as well. Thank you very much, Mama Bear. Rosalind Duke, check your Gmails. I will do that this weekend. I finally have a weekend where I can do some stuff around the house and do some stuff in the shop, so I'll get to emails. N.S. Anderson, thank you very much. I think it's very admirable, Kurt, that you feel that way about marriage. Means you will give your future wife everything you got in you and make it last, and that's amazing. I am 100% inclined to agree. So, Kurt, I agree with the sentiment a lot. Crazy Cat Queen, these days you can send syphilis patients to the psych ward. Okay. I didn't know that.
Psych ward or somewhere, something else?
To the southwest? I read that as psych ward.
Yeah, I don't know what that
Syphilis
means.
is curable these days, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
So
to the SW?
Confused.
Antibiotics, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
SW? To the SW. Whatever that translates as, but okay. Allie B from Tennessee, thank you. Off topic alert, but do any of you cover murder cases? We do often. If so, I'd love someone to follow the Cleotha Abston case out of Memphis. Kidnapped and brutally murdered a friend of mine last year. Liza Fletcher, sorry for derailing.
That's not a derail.
Sorry to hear about your friend.
Very sorry. Cleotha.
I'm writing down.
I'm going to hyperlink an article on it so I can take a look at it tomorrow. Oh, it looks like
Lawyers and Dragons, though, because or the Lawyers and Dragons cheap replacement.
And syphilis was the one that had all those nicknames for various countries, depending on what country you were from, right?
Oh, that's right.
It's like in Britain, it was known as the Greek disease. In Greek, it was known as the Russian disease. Or it was interesting because it's one of those language etymology things to see who blamed who on what.
Same thing with condoms, where there were various euphemisms that blamed other countries that suggested that those other countries are whatever. So lots of sexual things end up with people referencing other countries. Is like, it's not us, it's those other foreign people who are
Oh, I saw an article about this case the other day. I did see this. So this was the jogger, and meant that they just said they're gonna seek the death penalty. Yeah, I'll take a look at that case because I know that's ramping up for trial. So I'll take a look at that. Thank you, Allie, for the recommendation. Jen K, blame Bailey Sarian for that one. See no evil. Freak out face, laughing emoji. Bailey Sarian. Why am I been? Why am I looking this up? Oh, that's the graham cracker or the other one. Yep. January Garnet, thank you. My dad had to get weekly allergy shots. He was allergic to sawdust. He was also a carpenter. Well,
Wear a respirator and take a big shower, I guess.
I mean, you do what you do and you do what you love. I mean, I know people that are celiac and like their favorite food is pizza, and they still eat pizza because they love
Because
pizza.
it's pizza.
Yeah, I know.
You'd give up a lot before you gave up pizza.
Shell C, love the discussion tonight. Welcome back, and glad that Mama Morton is on the mend. Thank you very much, Shell, as well. I do have to shout out some of these member chats. Let me see here. Sarah Lee, thank you. Unnoticed case, thanks for educating us. Thank you for the member chat. Laura Leanne, perfect example of why divorce is okay. That's the Kouri Richins case. Let me see. Ange Torres gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much. Then I did want to call this not Student Life 2003. Ian, Kurt, Rob, thanks for helping me understand law. It was all in one word, so I really appreciate the sentiment and the fact you're a member and the fact that you appreciate the conversation. So you are absolutely welcome here, and I'm really happy that you are. Jill Higgins, thank you for the gifted memberships. Make sure that I've got the other ones that were starred and sent, because I can sometimes lose track. Okay. So that was Jill. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Roxy Chick was saying, thing is, it's only 14% of what he makes monthly. That was cash flow, Roxy. That does not actually take into account what he pays out to make that cash flow. I don't know, but I would say the guidelines calculated to 126,000. That's just what that number ended up being. Ohio Palm Mom, glad to see you. Glad Ian and Kurt streamed. I am very glad that they were doing that while I was away. Trisha G, horrible day today. Our sweet lab went to the Rainbow Bridge this morning. We're so heartbroken. I'm so sorry for that. Losing a pet is literally the worst. Yeah, it's pretty
Even
terrible.
when Zora's farty, I would miss the heck out of her.
Yep. And when she's attacking Ethernet cables. Yeah.
Yeah, even then.
Yeah. Brentwood Chic, thank you for the gifted memberships. Very much appreciated. Dog Squad or Iowa Dog Squad Mom, thank you for the gifted memberships. Gunther Gar, thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. That's amazing. Canonical Heat, 20 gifted memberships. Neurodivergent Counselor, 10 gifted memberships. Marty Herford, gifted membership. Thank you very much. John Common, 5 gifted memberships. Ange, 20. Joshua, 20 gifted memberships. Vez, 5 gifted memberships. And Lady Drake, 10 gifted memberships. Time Lords, 5 gifted memberships. Laura Christine, 10 gifted memberships. And Joshua, another 5 gifted memberships. You guys, the gifted memberships mean a freaking hell of a lot to me. They're really cool because I like to do the shop time. So we're going to do some shop time streams coming up this week. Because that's how I love to spend that time with you guys when you become members. And
I've
Charles
got
the
to
Century,
get it set up to do some leatherwork, leatherwork streams. I got to get a proper setup for that.
And Charles the Century, which was delayed because of me, not because of Ian, but I think we're back on Wednesday. Is that right?
I am down.
Okay. Wednesday is the members only stream. So all of you new members, we're going to do the members only where you get to see Ian and I prep the show for not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. But we're going to do the prep show this Wednesday. So please make sure you tune in. If you're a member of my channel or Ian's channel, you will both get the invites. You can watch on either one of those channels. It's just a matter. It's just like you guys tuning in and hanging out with us while we do that. Apple Silver, does America have post-jury duty care, allowing jurors who face mental health challenges to discuss the trial with professionals?
We'll all know.
I
did see one court order at one time, which actually caught me by surprise, but not typically.
I don't know, Apple Silver, but I think that would be something I think that the courts could and maybe should consider ordering, especially in trials like Murdoch, the trials involving child
Murdoch
stuff.
is an easy one comparatively. You
That's
get like
what I mean.
child
like
SA trials.
The child ones. Like
yeah,
those trials, I think about those. I think that judges should order that. I've never seen that, but that's a really interesting proposal and idea. Huh. I like that a lot. Joshua, thanks for another great FNF, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Joshua, thank you for being here and for contributing in the chat, for the members, all of the above. You guys are amazing. Crazy Cat Queen, Southwest. Oh, Southwest, because the heat instead of malaria equals fever. And yes, I know it's curable with penicillin. Obviously a bad joke. That was my bad for not picking that up. That was 100% on me. I missed that. So, no, that's not your fault. That was me, my brain just moving a little bit slower. All right. That is going to do it for us this evening. Thank you guys for being here. I'm sorry that Kurt had to step away for a minute. We'll wait for a minute till he gets back. Ian, you've got tomorrow. Kurt's back. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., Lawyers and Dragons derivative that Ian will be running. Kurt has been continuing with his 10 a.m. Eastern legal roundup, which honestly has been amazing. It's really cool.
Check it out. It's,
Thank you. It's a lot of fun, and we cover a lot of fun stories, and we've been doing live streams of trials and covering Supreme Court and covering true crime and covering various decisions that are happening at local levels. Covered one today dealing with Uber and DoorDash, the trying to set a minimum wage for workers in New York City.
Yep.
So cover all kinds of interesting stuff happening all over the country. So tune in.
Yep.
9:15 Central, 10:15 Eastern.
Every day, by the way. And then Monday, 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. my time, 5:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Ian's time, is Ian's Monday Fun Day. So check that out as well.
And on that, so very briefly, I paid somebody to edit a video. They delivered me the finished product.
Oh, no.
It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. It is like an atrocity. So I will share that with you guys because you can laugh at what I actually spent money to get. Because after I received it, I was like, well, I guess a deal's a deal. I still paid the guy. He actually sent me a message going, hey, why didn't you use the edit I made? And I was like, because it's awful. And he's like, that's a little rude. And I said, I still paid you for an edit I can't use. So like call it a win. And he's like, that's fair. So I think the only value we can get out of this is to just have a laugh. And you could be like, wow, Runkle is a moron for paying for this garbage. Or you could be like, Runkle is a moron. He should totally have run this. This is way better than.
Are we watching it together now? Is that what we're doing?
No, that's on Monday. Monday night.
Okay, I look forward to that.
We'll hang out and do that then. Matthew Payton, I'm tooling leather right now. Love you all. Thank you, Matthew. All right.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Well, this will wrap it up for this week's Friday Night Frenzy. Thank you guys for being here. Very much appreciated. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Get out and enjoy the sunshine. And if it gets too hot, get inside and air conditioned. And remember to drink some water and hydrate throughout the weekend. It's going to be a hot one. So thank you all for being here. Very much appreciated. And I'll catch you guys next time.